Spiru, I have revealed myself. For anybody watching this later, they won't know what that means. But here I am. Oh my God. What a couple weeks it's been. I was home for 2 years and then I wasn't all of a sudden. I was in numerous different places. Actually, just a couple different places, really. But, you know, I haven't been anywhere. Then you get out and travel and do stuff. What happened? I've been sitting here for 2 years and then that happened. Anyways, feeling good. I don't know. What's happening out there? Michael says, Pete, the TCG system is old, but it seems to be making a comeback. Really? That's interesting. I didn't know that. I saw your review years ago. Did you think this is still a good product worth investing in? The G system was really cool. And for what it was, I enjoyed it. And I did arguably, probably some of my, it's weird to think about now that actually that was the whole beginning of like my time with Chris Cornell was using the G system for about the first year. And I'm trying to remember back to that. I was running all, pedals into the G system because it's got all the 5 loops or whatever. And I was running everything in front of my amps, nothing in effects loops, using a divided by 13 for cleans and my Comet for dirty right at the beginning. And then I added a third amp, but I was running, splitting out of the G system into running all the effects in front of 3 amps. And I loved that time, that was like, God, we did probably like 150 shows like that or something that year. And that was my rig. So it worked really well. Some people used to complain about latency with it. I was still like, I didn't really understand the concept of like, you can't really use a germanium fuzz with a buffer in front. So I remember I didn't really understand that still at that point. It was 2006 or 7. And I had an experience pedal on the board. And I remember I was like, why doesn't it sound good? Like, so I was still learning stuff back then that, maybe I should have known already. But it worked really well. And then it was after that I got into sort of more, my rig before that, I had a G system set up with the rack mount switcher, and then pedals on a drawer, and a Rocktron Replifex that I would run in the loop of like rental Marshalls or whatever I was using. So that was my rig before. So, I was doing like that kind of thing, like with a switcher and a MIDI on the floor before that. And then I went to the G system, and it arguably was maybe, simpler, but I didn't have any effects in the loop. But anyway, it was all ancient history. To the point, do I think it's still a good thing? I think we've come a long way since then. The only thing with the TC effects is they were very sort of basic. Like the delay was a delay, the tape delay was the same delay but sounded darker, sort of. That was it. There wasn't like the kind of sounds that people are used to now. Quite a bit more sophisticated, and all the touch screens and stuff of things like the Quad Cortex, and we've come a long way. So, and I think probably converters have come a long way. Things like latency, these kinds of things. So, while it was a good unit for the time, I don't know that I would be like, yeah, get one now. It was really cool for the time, but with anything techie, it's not a tube amp where it can be kind of timeless. It always seems like, it's the equivalent of like literally, people were using the Pod XT back then too. That was like the current Pod or whatever, when we think about like what's happened since then, or the very first Axe effects came out right after the G system. So, yeah, anyways, Modern Vintage up there in the super duper chat. What's up? We already got 140 people online. I love it. Thanks for bearing with me, by the way, you guys, like last couple weeks, because I know the times were wacky and stuff. But I was stoked that I still managed to get in one show in an airport, and then the one last Saturday with Brian, which has been really well received. We had a good talk about amps, tube amps. And folks seem to really enjoy that. And so it was great. Have him back sometime. Thoughts on installing an Evertune on a $4,000 to $5,000 custom shop guitar that you already bond with? I wouldn't do that. Not that there's anything wrong with the Evertune, but if you're already you're going to seriously alter that guitar by cutting a whole bunch of wood out of it and stuff. And to me, an Evertune is something to do on a guitar, like one guitar. I mean, I know people that have done it on, like, I think vintage 335s and stuff. One guy I can think of. I just would never. I mean, I would take a cool modern guitar that isn't, super expensive. I don't know, like a like a Charvel Pro Mod or something with 2 humbuckers or something, and I would put it on there. A guitar that's $8.99 used or something. There's so many guitars that you could do that to, because you're pretty much locked into that one tuning then, right? I mean, it's a pain in the ass if you ever want to. You can't really do dropped, as I understand. I might correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like you couldn't do a drop D real easy or something. It's going to be a guitar that is for one tuning. It seems to be a great tool, like, not getting down on the thing at all, but just imagine the amount of, I mean, we used to freak out about putting a Kaler on a guitar. This is a major, like, it's a major thing. So if you're already happy with a custom shop guitar that you really bond with, why do that? Get another guitar and build it around that, or modify it. Totally, I think it's a good idea to have one around. I just wouldn't do it on a guitar you're already happy with. I think they might tell you that, I mean, it's like, I don't know. This fella here, Richard, he says, I got a Made in Korea ESP with an Evertune already installed. That sounds like a good idea to me. Something like that. It's kind of the way to do it. Yeah. So I'm just going to work back through the chat a little bit here. How can a beginner songwriter figure out what style of music they want to make? That's a hard question. I didn't really think about it back when I started writing songs. I guess I was just into the Who and the Beatles and stuff, and sort of this, wave of British heavy metal that was coming through then. So I suppose the songs that I wrote reflected all of that somehow. But to me, writing songs, it depends what you're writing for. I mean, if you're trying to write hits, or you're trying to, write in a certain style for a certain type of project or something, or there's probably the most fun way, which is kind of what I do most of the time, which is write whatever the hell I feel like it. Just like, that's what my thing with the pedal videos is just like so much fun, because I'm not trying to do anything in particular. I just plug the thing in, it's a tremolo, I get a sound, and then I come up with some riff, and then I go, ooh, I can hear these drums now. It's a lot different if you're writing for like a certain project, or when I think about the thing I just did, which was really fun, by the way, was this. It was a musical, really, in Wisconsin, and it was a sort of a vampire theme musical. It was really good, actually, and the music was quite good that was in it, I found. And the songs were obviously all to tell the story, right? So you're very specific. I mean, you need a certain kind of track to emote a mood, and because there's actors, and it's like, it's the first time I've kind of ever done anything like that. But I mean, all the music is obviously, once you start, when we kick into the show, it runs for it's going to be longer once they finish it, because this is really just kind of a preview of what they want to do with the thing. But as it is right now, it's 45 or 50 minutes long. Once you go, it's like it never stops running, the show, and it's a constant flow, like, of and to be fair, I mean, I would say, like, also, like, the like the pop tour I did in 2013 with Mylène Farmer, a great big French pop star. Very similar, like, where you start the show, and it's as much of a visual thing as it is a musical thing, with dancers, and I mean, the stage was unbelievable on that tour. Literally, like, at the opening, in the first 3 minutes of the show, as the stage becomes like a giant spaceship with, like, all these, like, sort of like lights and trusses moving and stuff like that, and they form this portal, and then she comes walking out of it. I mean, it's like a whole thing, so obviously all that music that's happening is you're gearing it towards a certain thing. So that's a really long-winded answer of saying, like, it depends what the purpose of your writing is. If it's just for fun, don't think about it. Like, don't limit yourself, sit down with a guitar, or get a certain tone that inspires a sound, come up with a part, and then go, what would I do to this now, groove wise, or whatever, and then add a groove, and then try and see where it morphs to, Yeah. Somebody asked a question right out of the gate that said, your gear is pretty expensive. Do you love any cheaper guitars and pedals and amps? I mean, there's lots of cheaper gear that I quite like. I mean, like everything down to the little Black Star Fly 3 thing, which I had one, then I lost it somehow on my way back from Japan. They're $70, I think. That's a great little practice thing that made me play guitar more in a hotel room. It's tiny. It fits in a suitcase. It sounds great. You see Phil X play through them a lot in hotel rooms. That's where I got the idea to get one, because he had one. I was like, that thing sounds cool. So there's a great little piece of gear. Or, like the current range of modelers. I mean, that new Headrush modeler I just did a review of a little while ago, or the Pod Go. Was the Headrush around $300, I think? And the Pod Go, these things are all under $500, and they sound really good. I mean, the Pod Go is basically Helix tones for less expensive, less options, but it sounds really good. The HX Stomp is unbelievable value for the amount of stuff that it does. I think it's a little nitpicky getting in there because it's small, so it's like to get deep in the menus, like, how do I do that? How do I get to this place again? But once you figure it out and you store your sounds, it's unbelievable how much stuff that thing does. So there's some pieces of gear that are inexpensive. As far as guitars go, recently I did the show with my buddy Mitch, all Van Halen music in Florida, and those guitars are great, and they're under the Frankie one is a little more. I think it's up to 1900 now or something. But you routinely see the yellow and black one I got. I think it's sitting right there. That's a really good guitar, and that's my first exposure to those guitars. Playing them, and I think they're quite nice I think they're $8.99 or something like that. So, the Court guitar acoustic that I did a review of recently on my channel, I think is well under $1,000, $900 or something like that. The A6 Gold or something it was called, I think. You can see a review I did for Guitar World. So there's some examples. There's lots of great gear out there for not too much money, honestly. A couple of super chats here. We've got Arthur. What's up, man? Mod question. The elite Marshall mods I've seen, I hear people seek out there are the Jose, Lee Jackson. Oh, you just reminded me. I've got to give Lee Jackson a call. Somebody, he wanted to speak to me. He called me and I haven't called him back. I feel bad about that. So I'm going to give him a call. Lee, if you're watching, I'm going to call you or call me back. You've got my number. He just wanted we've never spoken, and he evidently likes the videos I make and stuff. And so he wanted to have a conversation. So I'd love to chat with him and stuff. Anyways, I digress. What are my preferences on mods? Knowing what I know, I mean, I really like, the Jose mods I have all done in that red Germino there that you can see in the corner of the screen, done by Dave Friedman. And I've played a bunch of classic Jose mod amps at this point. I've got the chance to check out a bunch of them. So I have a good handle on what his mods sound like and what they do. I really like them. I think that, the gain boost in front of a plexi thing that he did is the main kind of thing. And if it's just tuned just right, it's just perfect. And you can kind of get that sound of the cranked amp, but at a much lower volume. And it's cool. And it really serves a purpose. That said, it still has the effect of kind of the video I did a little while ago on why tube amp distortion is the best distortion, or whatever the heck I call it. I sort of showed, and Brian was maybe last week when he was on my show was maybe sort of trying to refute a little bit of what I was saying, but I was talking about how the cranked phase inverter, like when you nail a phase inverter, it has that cool sound and that collapse that the amp does and stuff like that. And he was like, but it's all opinions, right? Because Eddie Van Halen is my answer. He likes more of the Marshall on 6 or 7 in the sweet spot just before you nail the hell out of the phase inverter. And I'm like, that's cool too. I love that. But then if you go a little more, it goes into Van Halen land, and it's a beautiful thing. But he's not a huge fan of doing that. But anyways, my point being that when you put the gain boost in front, like Jose did, and like a lot of these guys did, Soldano too. I mean, we're talking about variations on the theme, but when you put the gain boost in front and you don't do that and kind of collapse that part of the power section in the amp, it's a different sound and it's a little more linear. And I show that in the video with the Soldano. That it's a little bit less of that sag and return to that sag thing. And so to me, that sounds a bit more 80s metal is how I would describe it. Whereas the sag and the return thing has a little bit more of that 70s thing that we think of, when we think of Eddie, or even a lot of guitar tones of great guitar players, where it was, less gain stages in front and the whole amp kind of getting, pushed to the limit. The more gain stages in front and the power section, recovering much quicker and maybe not getting pushed as hard, is a slightly different sound that I think of as a bit more 80s. Because it's really not that different than taking a JCM 800 and then hitting it with an SD1 or something. Yeah, it's a little more organic, but it's like it's just a different thing. And when you hear it, and sometimes that's what you want. Sometimes you want that kind of more linear, predictable. I mean, I love playing my, the PT 100 has that. It's a gain stage in front, really. The with the Lee Jackson amps, I there's a different thing with those. Wherever he did his, I don't understand them as much, but he had that mid shift, I think, in a lot of his mods, which is kind of cool, where you can change the mid frequency that's kind of happening and stuff, and a little bit different. So Tommy Fugelson, who's that? Fulkelson, is he the guy that did the stuff over in like Holland? I'm not sure who that is, but I think I might know who you're talking about. That could be like kind of the preferred guy in Europe to do these kinds of things. But anyway, what are my preferences? I would say that these days my preference is a PT 100 or PT 15. You've got Dave Friedman as well doing the BEs and the variations on those things and stuff. And these are all these guys know all those circuits. They know what was done, what a Soldano is. They know what was done to what Jose did. They know what Lee did and all that stuff. And Lee, arguably, and Soldano, obviously, these are the guys that are still around, so you can still get their things if you want those sounds, But then you've got Friedman and Sir and stuff, the guys that kind of came on the scene more in the 90s and then into the 2000s, and they've distilled all this stuff down. And you can, it's back in the day, you couldn't get one of these without going to the modders, and nowadays, like, I guess what I'm getting at is pretty easy to order one from Sweetwater or from Humbucker Music or something. You can buy these amps, and it's not such a mystery anymore. And get right there in the zone of what you used to have to send your amp off to LA to some amp repair place to get done. Todd says, have you heard of the Blue Guitar amp which uses nanotubes? I haven't. I like Thomas, the fellow that does those, and I have some interest in those nanotube, but they're very expensive, as I understand it. And as I understand it, like I was talking to Kevin Sir about it, and he looked into buying I have asked the guys at Sir, like, what should we look at these and see, like, what if we design something around this? And they're like, yeah, it's like not really, like we can do like a regular thing, like much easier than this, because they're quite a lot for the nanotube. So I don't know. I mean, I'd have to. It's interesting that Thomas is a pretty forward-thinking guy and stuff, and I would like to try one, but I just haven't tried it. So, what are my thoughts on Synergy? How close to traditional amps do I think these are? Sort of close, because I mean the power section once again is a huge thing for me. So, the power amp, and if it's just the preamp circuit, there's a difference for sure. I mean, if you watch my videos, I did a few videos for the Synergy module, some of them running into the PT15, some of them with their power amp. And the angles I really like, for example, like the Savage, I found that to be quite different sounding than anything that I have around here. So it was like, oh, that's cool to have. That Steve Vai module that's in there is very nice. It's got its own thing, but it's basically Steve's, legacy drive, and they're really nice blackface, sparkly, clean sound. Really, really good. The BE, very nice. The Plexi, very nice. But you're going to find that one thing that I think with these is, like, for example, like if you're using the same power amp and the same speakers, you're not, it's not going to all of a sudden become an AC30 when you put the Morgan module in there. It's going to have some of the characteristic, but you're going to be like, oh, I think that's the only limitation that you face with those things, is that there's no way around it. You're going to be using one power amp and one set of speakers. So, which is a big part of any guitar sound. Brian and I talked about that last week, like speakers, and it's amazing how you can run, run whatever into a Vox style 212 with blues in it, and it starts to sound a lot like an AC30, you know, or run whatever amp into an open back 410 with, you know, it's a Tweed 410. It's going to sound a lot like 410 Bassman all of a sudden. So, you know, that said, it's a cool thing, you know, having to the different circuits. I still think, you know, like the real SLO or whatever, if you use it compared to the SLO preamp into their power amp, it sounds different. Not how different does it matter? Maybe better. Maybe you like it better, you know, than the Soldana power. But it sounds somewhat different. You're always going to get that difference with the power amp being different, with the speakers being different. It's always going to be there. So take that with a grain of salt. Nick, thanks for the super chat. Thanks all you guys for the super chats. I really appreciate it. Oh, you got a gold signature guitar. Wow, dude, you're hooking me up this week. I appreciate it. Feels like home already. That's great. For drop D with something like an FU tone tremolo stop, help with higher strings going sharp. You're a down only wang bar user. Yeah, you could look at doing a. I put one of the trem stop things on the EVH guitar because I couldn't set it quite the way that my red and white and black one, the bridge would go back too far, and then it messed with the operation of the fine tuners and stuff. So I put a trem stop on there and screwed it in the back without a hell of a lot of thought, and it works just fine. So yeah, if you want to only go down with it, I would probably set the bridge so it's totally parallel with the body, and then you know, try one of those FU tone things. It's a simple thing that you can always reverse, and I think it'd be good. Then you have no problems for drop D and stuff like that. Randy says, been on an 80s Gary Moore kick lately. I feel like he kind of got buried compared to yeah, I would agree with that. No one played like Gary. He was fiery as hell, and I kind of liked his that era, you know, like the quarters of power and all that stuff with the, you know, and when he played the Strat, I really liked that he would kind of shred on in his own way. A lot of fire in his playing, like on a wasn't it like salmon pink or something? Strat, or maybe it was Dakota and just looked pink. I don't know. But anyway, I liked Gary, and he was a great singer and kind of underrated, you know, I would agree. Like, I mean, he's still, people hold him in high esteem. You know what I think it maybe is. Maybe he outshined himself by in the 90s reinventing himself as a blues man, you know, really, and doing the Still Got the Blues, which was brilliant. I mean, like, not too many players made those transitions, you know, like that. And when you think about the bands that made the transitions, like one huge one for me is ZZ Top, right? Like, I remember seeing ZZ Top in 81 or 82, one of the first shows I ever saw on the El Loco tour. And there was about 5,000 people there at the arena in Edmonton. And it was like everybody looked like bikers, you know. And then 2 years later, I went and saw them on the Eliminator tour at the same venue. And it was 14,000 teenagers, you know. And I was like, wow, this is like a little blues band from Texas, like completely reinvented themselves as an MTV kind of pop thing. And successfully, you know. And that carried them through another at least decade of, you know, of that thing. And then they kind of reverted whatever back to some degree back to their thing, you know, that they'd always been, I guess, right? But I find that fascinating when artists can make those transitions. And, you know, Bowie is the master of, through just timeless, you know, from the late 60s through when he passed away, through the days before he passed away. It's just like completely reinventing himself and just a consummate artist all the way through, and seems completely current. Like, what a amazing thing. So Gary did that. And I think Gary's own rock work got buried a little bit, maybe by his, you know, the blues, which are arguably, when he Still Got the Blues and stuff, that eclipsed, you know, he became that was a huge hit, you know, I think. And so maybe it's that, you know, and people forgot about his, but what a great, I don't think he's well, he's not around, but I don't think he would have complained if he was still here. And he probably didn't, you know. So interesting career arc, you know, for sure. And a great guitar player. And I loved him in Thin Lizzy too, you know. Awesome. Any tips on using the Helix LT in the 4-cable method with a tube amp? I've never tried the LT. Feels less ferocious. Try it on a clean sound and make sure you're not losing gain somewhere or something, and just see if you're losing anything, like I would say. Because on a clean sound, of course, you'll hear the drop in any kind of level or something. And maybe it's messing with levels. Some people mess with the impedance input setting on the Helixes, and they claim that helps the feel and stuff. I never had any problems with the HX effects and hooking it up 4 cable to a PT50, and I always felt it worked really well. But a lot of this is dependent. I don't know about anything with the loop that's in a JJ Junior and stuff. One way or another, Dave could tell you. You may or may not experiment with using a buffer in the loop. That kind of thing can have some effect. But I just don't know about the loop in the JJ Junior and stuff. So all these things, it's kind of amp dependent, I think, when you hook these things up 4 cable. But yeah, try it. Long story short, try it on a clean sound, and then try and experiment with the various level settings, because you can change the level, the input and output levels. I think I kind of ended up with everything at pedal level, but I can't remember I just can't remember right now. But mess with the levels, mess with the input impedance, try it on a clean sound, and make sure if you're plugged right in the front of the amp, play, hook it up 4 cable, play, try and do that as quick as possible so you can listen to the differences and see what you're hearing with a straight up clean sound is my recommendation. Yeah. Gary Moore's blues runs are secretly what I've always wanted to learn. His performance at Red House at the Strat Pack concert. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I've seen that. He's a badass, man. Definitely. Definitely. Lou says you got a blue SIG guitar. Wow, you guys. Thanks, you guys. It's awesome. I'm glad you're happy with him. It's been really well received, and I love that I feel like we made a really good tool for folks. And I feel the same way about the PT15. There's a nice thread on the gear page about that, and to see the ways that people are implementing it and using it and practicing with it and saying, my tube amps other amps are collecting dust. This is the one I use all the time now. I love that, because I just, if we can, I love tube amps, and if we can keep it moving forward so that it's still a viable option for a lot of people and really user friendly and like usable in a bunch of situations, but it's still real tubes cooking. I like that. Yeah. Lauren saying, I don't think Synergy actually limits you to one power amp, one set of speakers. It can play any power amp, including other heads. No, of course. But I'm saying you're going to be the point I was trying to make is you're stuck with one at a time. So this is the thing when you go from, like a AC30 style module to a Marshall style module to a Savage, is that if you're running into one speaker type and one power amp, those things aren't changing. That remains static as of course you could unplug everything, plug in a different one and get closer to you could plug in an AC30 style cabinet and run into an EL84 style, even the effects return of some, if there's a modern AC30 variant that has one or whatever, and probably get closer to, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's the only thing to be aware of. This is coming from a guy going way back that was an early adopter of the Randall, right? And the Egnator M4. I had an M4 in my rack like 13, 14 years ago, and I was switching. I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show that I started out with a G system with Chris Cornell and switching between a few different amps and stuff. By the end of my time, doing our solo touring with him, I was using a 12-space rack with a wet, dry, wet setup, and I had the PT100 existed then. So I had all 3 channels of the PT100, but I also had an Egnator M4 via a switcher in front, and I had all 4 channels working, doing different things. So I could switch essentially between 7 different channels at that point, which was insane because it was a lot of volume levels to set. That was the hardest part, was making sure that when I switched that the master wasn't off on the preamp on one of the channels. It took every sound check was like, okay, did the levels get tweaked? Because they're kind of finicky on those old Egnator modules, those little pots, But I used, a whole bunch of different sounds at that point and with the M4. But like I'm saying, like I started to realize at some point that how much difference am I really getting here? And I ended up just going back to the PT100 and using the 3 channels and stuff and augmenting my tones maybe a little bit with pedals in front of the clean channel instead, because it got a little extravagant having like literally. Not only was it 7 channels, right? 4 in the Egnator and 3 on the PT100 that I could switch between. I could use the preamps, any of that. But the Egnator modules had 2 masters per channel because you could do like a solo boost thing. It was a lot of master volumes and a lot of different sounds. So, anyways, well, I'm well versed with the, at this point with the modular preamps, both the Randall. I did a tour with the. You're making me think back about rigs today. That same rack, that 12 space, in 2003, I toured with 40 Foot Echo, my band that had a record on Hollywood Records, and I had the original Egnator M4 for that tour, and the original Randall. What was the Randall called? RM4 version of the Egnator design preamp, and a Randall RT250 power amp, the stereo 50 watt aside. So I ran a stereo rig on that tour using one Randall 412 with V30s in it, and both sides mic'd or whatever. And I had 4 modules in there. Some early like Dave Friedman modded, it's probably basically like a BE similar thing. I used the Recto module a lot because I used a real rectifier on that record a lot. That sounded really good. So anyways, I go way back with these things, and I'm just telling you, my experience with the modular stuff is that what you don't get to do is change up your speaker type or power amp type on the fly during a show. I should have maybe specified that. Neil says, folks you played with, what vocalist impressed you the most live? Ooh. I'm going to say the most consistent was Melissa Etheridge. She's a monster singer, and blows your mind when she turns it on. She doesn't really like rehearsing. She's not into rehearsing. She's into the show and the moment and improvising, and she's not really a big fan of just the rehearsal process and stuff like that. So the first time I saw her really do her thing was at the first show, and she was really in rehearsal. She sounded great in rehearsal, but she was turning it on about 50%. And then when she hit the stage, it was like, holy shit! Like, she's a really powerful live singer. And really, really, really consistent. Like, so we got to give props to Melissa because she was so amazing. Supposed to see her actually soon. We're gonna get together and play around with some guitar gear and stuff because she's always working on her guitar tone these days. So look forward to that. Like in December at some point, gonna get together. And I really want to show her PT15 actually because I think she might really like it. But for years she used a Badger, and lately she's been using Axe Effects and stuff. So, but Chris is amazing, obviously, and geez, that guy, he's one of the greatest rock singers of all time. Obviously, he's amazing. So he was brilliant. Don Henley, of course. Henley, it's more about, for me, I mean, he's a great singer with that iconic voice, but it was really lyrics for me. That's the thing where I would he's a class act, and the lyrics are second to none. I mean, when he sings Desperado standing there beside you, you're like, holy shit, like that's some absolute world-class amazing stuff going on over there. New York Minute was the one that I always use as an example because I had to play very little on New York Minute. So when it's a story, he's telling this beautiful story of, it's a heartbreaking story, it's melancholy as hell, but it's such a great song. I love it so much. And when I was playing with Don, 2009, the economic crash had just happened around then. And so when he sang New York Minute, it was poignant, like really poignant. And that's the thing. He had these timeless songs that were like, I don't know, you just felt it. So anyways, I got to stand there because I didn't have to play in the verses. And sometimes I'd almost forget to come in the chorus because that's where I would play. And I'd just be watching him sing that song every night. That was really cool. So I think about those moments more than maybe the technical singing, like the amazing, technical singing. But I've Ian Thornley, I've only did one gig with, but holy man, that guy can sing like a monster, like he's just got that an unbelievably amazing natural voice. Those are all the folks that are coming to mind right now. Tyoshi, I mean, the fellow I play with in Japan, he's got a really amazing voice too. You guys probably aren't familiar with his music, but he has his own thing that he does, and it's like he's got a huge range of power that he sort of draws on, and his generally speaking, his intonation and tuning is really incredible. And his energy is unbelievable. So there's that, Michel Polnareff, who's another artist I toured with in France, he's a legendary French artist. He's amazing too in his own way. He has, I think he was 73 when we were touring, and he was I learned watching him because he's like this master, sort of showman, and his ability to sort of read a room. He's a very funny guy too, so there's that, and just his ability to kind of like navigate the night and I don't know, he was like fearless or something. He's at 73, he's just, you don't meet people like that were around in the 60s too often, that had hits in the mid 60s, late 60s into the 70s, big hits. And then, through the 70s into the 80s. And when you play with somebody like that and you step on stage with them, it's like, there's a certain elder statesman, you pay attention because it's like, this person's seen some stuff, and it's amazing. But anyways, I was looking at the Van Halen studio pictures from '79. Noticed a Schaefer Vega wireless behind Eddie. Do I think that? Yeah, I've always wondered about that too. Like, he was obviously using it. Did he use it in the studio? I kind of doubt it, but it's possible, I guess. Kind of like the Angus story. Did he use it? Did he? Who knows? He certainly never talked about that. But I always wondered, maybe there's some. Maybe he was using a Schaefer Vega, and that's where he got his, But I think most of when you see him in '78, I think he was still on a cable, like generally speaking, when he had the bomb on stage and all that. Like, I know in '79, the studio pictures, you see it, and he was messing with them. But I think it just came out right around then, like '78, '79. So I really doubt it was used on. I kind of doubt it was used on the recordings. It's possible though. We don't know. I've wondered this too, because we're both geeks, so we both wonder these things. Flogging Molly. Seen them, love, hate them. I haven't really seen them, so can't really comment, not really sure. Sorry. Vocals on Love Hurts by Nazareth just blows my mind. That is absolutely one of the greatest tracks. I mean, yeah, it's amazing, right? That guy. Nobody talks about how he kind of sounds like Brian Johnson too in his prime, but maybe like a pure voice, I just thought the guy from Nazareth could sing an AC/DC. It would be cool. This Flight Tonight, God, this is great tunes. Now y'all messing with those songs. Nazareth was really popular in Canada. I sort of don't have a perspective on how big they were in the U.S. because I feel like they were a bigger band in Canada than maybe they were in the United States, but maybe somebody else can correct me on that. They definitely had a lot of radio, like those three tunes that we just mentioned actually were the big ones and that I remember in Canada. Yeah. Let's see. Any plans on getting Keith Scott on the show? I would love to have Keith Scott on. And I know the bass player for Bryan Adams, actually. He's my friend Saul that toured with Jewel with me in 2006. So, and he's told me that Keith is a fan of the show and stuff. And so maybe he's watching now. Who knows? But I'd love to have Keith on. That'd be so cool. He's a legend, that guy. I mean, such a tasteful. I always say I think of him as the Canadian Mike Campbell, playing the perfect thing all the time for the song and, great tone and all that. John, hey, John, what's up? He says, Ditto plus Looper inbound. Where in the loop do I place it? I have the most control with my BE and effects. Ditto plus Looper. It depends. You have to decide. Here's the thing to decide with a looper, whether or not you want your loop to have some of your effects in the loop. Because of course, if you put it after your effects and then you record something into it by playing into it, those effects are then going to be in there, right? And then if you have it in front, now it's just your raw guitar playing into it, and then that is going to play into the effects. So I do some things sometimes where I create a sound with a certain effect chain, like an ambient pad kind of thing or something in a loop, and then what I want to do is get that looping, but then switch to a different sound that's like a lead sound or something that I can play on top of that. If you were to have it in front and you were to get, you play into the loop, and then it's playing into your effects ambient pad, right? And now you switch to your lead sound. Well, now the loop's going to be playing into the lead sound, and you're going to have a bunch of distortion or whatever, fuzz or whatever you're using, right? So you don't want that. So where the looper comes in the chain depends on how you want to create the sound. So let's say you know, chorus and delay and reverb, and you make a great big ambient pad, and you want to, then you want to solo on top of it or something, where you're going to want to put the looper after, you know, your compressor and your chorus and your reverb and all that, right? And then you're going to create the loop and get it going, and then it's going to be looping, and then you're going to change the sound. So now you've got a different guitar sound, different effects going, but that ambient reverb and chorus and everything keeps going because the looper's later in the chain after those effects that were on. That's as clear as I can explain it. So, and there's no right or wrong with this. You can put it where you want. It's just dependent on, in my mind, most people are going to want to create a loop with a certain sound and then maybe switch to a different sound to play on top of the loop, right? So that means that sort of dictates that you got to have the looper downstream from some of your effects. What do you prefer, EL34s or 606s? Generally, I'm an EL34 guy because I love the Marshall sound, but I love the 606 sound too for that certain, you know, bouncy big bottom. Everybody likes bouncy big bottom, don't they? You know, a little more scooped in the air on top and all that. But with that said, you know, the thing about it is there's a lot of other factors that come into play beyond tube type, you know, that have to do with the sound. So this is why you see, you know, the early 5150s or whatever, 6L6s in there, and it's, you know, this is basically a rock amp with, you know, a bunch of gain stages and stuff, also Soldanos, right? So, you know, different power amp. There's more to it than just the tube type. Can you combine them? I think only maybe in the Mesa simulclass amps were really some of the only where you could combine and get both types of tube types going. You know, once again, I don't know that that was ever a big, like, I don't know anybody that was like, oh my God, the Mesa simulclass is the key to my sound because I was able to combine the EL34s with the 6L6s and get a sound unlike any other. I don't think that that was ever really a thing. Cool in theory, but you know, it's the sound of the output tubes is actually probably one of the smaller, I would say, like effects on tone of the entire amplifier, especially in a modern gain amp that tends to run the power amp cooler and not be driving the hell out of it, you know. So when we think about 6V6s sounding a certain way, or these different amps sounding certain, those old amps, I mean, tend to be little low watt Tweed Deluxes and stuff, and you're cranking the piss out of them, right? And, you know, getting them up into just to get them up to a volume where you could play with a band or whatever. So then maybe they had more effect back then. A lot of the modern amps, you know, there's just not as much of a difference, and you can kind of tweak the sound of the, you know, there's other factors in the power amp like the negative feedback loop and the, you know, the design of the presence circuit, all this stuff that have a lot of effect over the tone, just as much, if not more, than probably the tube type, I think. So I think. Sound like I know what I'm talking about. I don't think I do, but maybe I do. One of these days I'll take Egnator's amp course, and then I'll be really dangerous. Go for a weekend, and I'll think I know everything about the way that this stuff works. Do you know that? You can go to Michigan, and he does like a build an amp course. It's pretty cool. I'd love to go do that, like, and just make my own amp over a weekend and have him chastise and tell me what an awful solderer I am and teach me how to do it properly and stuff. But I would like to do that. I probably will do it at some point. I think it'd be a beneficial thing for me to know a little bit more about when I'm talking about circuits and stuff, with, because I like the nitty gritty. I like the, you know, the cathode follower going into the blah blah blah, you know, and the coupler doing blah blah blah, you know. But I don't really know. Anyway, missed my super chat. Sorry, 40 grit. I get off on tangents, especially I'm happy to be back doing this, and so it's like I probably getting long-winded today. I'll try and move faster. Picked up a JVM 50 and I'm impressed. Your thoughts on the JVM? The JVM, I don't. Let me see what Marshall that is. I don't really have a great perspective on a lot of these modern Marshalls. I've tried, you know, the recent SV20, and was quite impressed with that. JVM. Oops, sorry, I don't want to do that. I want to open another window. One sec here. Let me take a look here and see if I can see what amp you have. JVM. Let's see. JVM. These like the 205s. Are these like the older combo version that had 3 channels, or is it a JVM 205 50-watt 2-channel amp head? Taking a look here. Okay. Yeah, I don't know that much about these. Generally speaking, when I plug into these, I feel like I can get a pretty good sound, like the few times that I've tried. I've tried the Satriani one. Satriani. What do you guys say? Satriani. And I thought it was pretty cool. It had the gates in it and stuff, But I like them. I think they're cool. When it comes to Marshalls, I'm a little bit of a purist. So it's like when I look inside and I see the the ribbon cables and stuff like that. Now, when I think of Marshall, I just think of that thing, and it's hard for me to get past that because I'm like an old fuddy-duddy, I guess. But that doesn't mean that they don't sound good and you can't get good sounds out of them, So I don't know. That's the best I can do. Sorry, it's such a crappy non-answer, isn't it? Do you own any Mesa Boogies, and what are your thoughts? Okay, over the years, I've owned a lot. I started off with a studio preamp and a 295 power amp, and I moved to LA with that stuff, with 2 of the 212s, and I shipped it all. I air cargoed all that stuff when I came to GIT, which is insane, because imagine what it cost. It was in a 12-space rack. I mean, just the 295, Not only did I do that, I sent all my guitar magazines down. I can't believe, like, my parents agreed to this stuff, because it was like I had every Guitar Player magazine from like the late 70s through the early 90s, 10 years of them. Imagine what that weight and what that cost. It's like, what did you need those for? It didn't. It was insane. They all ended up, I don't know where they ended up. But anyway, I digress. I had a studio preamp and a 295. Oh, but just before that, I had an original Caliber 50. That amp haunts me to this day because the Caliber 50, it was this, it was the simple. Remember, they had the Studio 22 and then the Caliber 50. The original Caliber 50 was out for about a year and it had EL84s in it, 4 EL84s, kind of a unique amp. And they ran kind of hot, as I understood it. And so my amp quickly started red plating tubes. And I thought, it was my first real tube amp. And I thought, I don't know, maybe this thing isn't reliable. And I should get rid of it. And I got rid of it and got the studio preamp and the 295 and all this rack shit, right? Well, I should have kept that Caliber 50. Funny enough, years later, I found that Chris Cornell had one. I was at his house and I'm like, oh my God, you have one of these things. It was a combo version. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, I had one of these and then I got rid of it. And he's like, yeah, I know. I always liked it kind of. And I liked it too. I couldn't remember what it sounded like. I didn't get a chance to plug into his that day, but I couldn't believe he had the same one because it was like a little bit unobtainium. You don't see them that much, the EL84 version. But anyways, they went to the Caliber 50 Plus not long after that because I think of the unreliability of the EL84s and stuff. And that amp sounded different to me. Contradicting myself a little bit earlier from saying that power tubes don't, but whatever happened in the Caliber 50 Plus, I had a friend with one and it sounded a little fizzy to me and edgy and with 6L6s instead of EL84s. Mine sounded, I just remember the lead tone being really warm and kind of smoking and just cool. I liked it. It was I think it was a long, it wasn't the short head. It was a long full-size head. And I really liked it, but I got rid of it. Dumb. Okay. And then I got a rectifier after that. 3-channel version, not the coveted sort of early 2-channel. It was the 3-channel. Still cool though. And I made the 40-foot Echo record with that amp, and it was a cool amp for that sound, that generic early 2000s new metal sound, but that sound nonetheless. And that was the sound of the time. Not too long after that, I got a 2020 power amp, and I did a little bit of touring with one of the 2020 power amps. And my preamp thing was a Lexicon MPX G2. Anybody remember those? Kind of an early, had like Phase 90 and Tube Screamer models in it. Kind of an early modeling sort of thing. And did I have a preamp in the rack? Not that I remember. Maybe that was just my sound, was that digital Lexicon thing going in the power amp. Anyways, I did a short-lived run like that. And I think, as memory serves it, that might be my last kind of Mace foray. Now, I also had in the 90s, I forget, I had a Mark III. I hated that amp. The Mark III to me was like the amp that you spend 45 minutes just trying to tweak to get a halfway decent sound. Then you'd finally get a tone that was pretty good, and you'd switch to the other channel and it sounded bad. So then you tweak some more and then you lost it, whatever you had. And I did that enough times where I can clearly remember the time thinking in my bedroom trying to get a sound. And, I sat down to practice and I ended up tweaking my sound an hour later and just going, this thing is like ruining my life, because it's like I keep turning the knobs trying to get a sound for the last 6 months that is just not in there. So I sold it. And when I got rid of that thing, I got a 5150, I think was the next. That's when I got the 5150, I think. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, like an early Block Logo one. It was so early, it still had Phillips tubes in it. It was when they were shipping with American tubes. I could be mixing up my timeline of amps. But anyways, there you have it. So I've had all those. Tried a lot of Mesa amps over the years as well, like other ones, and I don't know. I'm not like, I'm sure they've got. I like the Lone Star. I will say that that's a cool amp. The simpler ones, always seem to bond with. A friend of mine had an old original Mark I. It had a great Fendery, thing, like a big high power Fender. So there you have it. What is your Fryette PS100 workflow? Which IR package do you recommend investing for someone that just bought the PS100? Well, with IRs, I quite enjoy the Celestians and the Yorks these days, but I will say that you should pick a package that is similar to what you like in real life. So if you're like, yeah, I love 412s with greenbacks, get the Celestion 412 with greenbacks, like the whole package. And then use those. For me, it's the main food groups of the speakers. So it's like I need some 412 V30s, some 412 greenbacks, a 212 with blues, the Vox style cab. I like a 410 sometimes with open back, like Bassman style or super reverb style. And I like a deluxe, generally speaking, because I like recording a lot of, for anything non-metal or, like any pop kind of stuff or whatever, it's helpful to just have a 112 deluxe nice sound. So like if this gives you any indication on the aux, how you can set your favorites on all 6 settings. I have a greenback, I have a V30, I have a 410 open back, I have a 212 Vox style, and I maybe have a custom 212 with like 65s. That's a bit more of that Dumbly kind of thing. And those are my things in there. So I would recommend, no matter what, like look at Celestion, look at York, and just get cabs that you like, that in real life, and start there. And it's less overwhelming that way. What's your Fryette PS100 workflow? Well, so coming out of my amp switcher, the Ampede up there, you can do 8 amps and 8 cabinets. Well, I just have 3 cabinet sends hooked up. Cabinet sends, because actually one of them is going to the power station and then passing on to a live cabinet in the other room that's mic'd up, and the power station I can attenuate with, obviously, and get, I don't have to drive the hell out of the cabinet in the other room, and that works great. And in the loop of the power station, I have this Korg Sdd 3000 delay. So if I just want to get a straight up mono echo on a solo track and just print it, I can do that. So that's the power station. The other 2 speaker outputs I'm using on the MP are feeding the aux and the surreactive load. And then both those have line outs into the aux in stereo, and the surreactive load just, mono line out into my interface. And that's kind of how I integrate it. Hope that makes sense. Talking so much about old rigs, what were your main guitars during the Cornell days? It was really, where is it? Sometimes I forget where my guitars go. It's not in here right now, but my black Les Paul Custom, which must be, I think I took it to use somewhere, so it's in a case. But anyways, black Les Paul Custom. I had a gold top 57 reissue, an R7 that I used on like Rusty Cage and a few other songs. I had an R8 that I used as well. That was a 2000 and I don't know, early 2000s R8. I had a Strat that I used for a while on like Say Hello to Heaven and some other songs. It was a green Fender custom shop jobby, and then I ended up selling that guitar and getting a 66 Strat that I had for just a couple months, and then I traded it at Groomed in Nashville, and I got a 63, no, 60, I can't even remember, 64 Strat, and that's my main old Strat, and then I used that for the duration of our touring for the next couple of years to have I took it on the road and would use it. But those were the main guitars, really. I had an Explorer as well that I used on a few songs. Black Explorer, kind of regular run-of-the-mill Gibson one. But the main guitar that really was my black Gibson Les Paul Custom, and I used to play it on most of the Soundgarden songs. It was just really cool. It had if anybody remembers WB pickups, Will Boggs. I don't know what ended up happening to him and his company and stuff, but I had a Will Boggs pickup in the bridge and just a regular Duncan 59 in the neck, I think. And yeah, great guitar. It was a terrific guitar. And then I started getting involved with Sir, and I had I also used my like the Sir I used in that How to Play Eruption video, the blue one. I had it out on the road, and I used to play some Audio Slave songs on it and stuff. It was like a kind of a turquoise, blue, green HSS configuration Sir, the very first one I ever got. I also had a butterscotch, 52 style Sir that I would play on sale or on Hunger Strike, and a couple other tunes. Those were the main guitars. Is red plating the same as tube sagging? No, red plating is really like literally when you might smell something funny or hear your amp sounding extra distorted, or like what's going on, or it seems like you're losing power, and you look in the back and the tubes are glowing like ruby red, and at that point they're basically toast. And yeah, that's what red plating means. Literally, like tubes like look like the color of that amp. That's completely, on the inside. That's bad. That's when you know they've failed. And so that's that. Bonjour, my French fan. How are you? Let's see. Love those shades. These are from this company called Caddis, and I'm gonna give them a little plug. There's actually a link down if anybody's interested in these. These have changed my life. They're great. I got tired of the drugstore readers, and this company makes these killer glasses. They just like look cool, and they're like, you can get them in some different. These obviously a little bit blue, and you can get them in different colors and stuff. And they make a whole bunch of different designs, but they're just reading glasses. You can get them in like +1, +1.5, +2, whatever. And I like them a lot. They're cool. So anyways, it's one of those things that I had to look for a while to find some that I liked. And I finally found this company, and it's like, when you go check out their webpage if you guys wear reading glasses and stuff. They're just cool as shit. They're just cool looking and nice people, nice design, and they're not like Foster Grants or whatever. James Bell in the super chat. Looking forward to the UK shows. Me too, man. Really looking forward to it. What do you use for pedal power supplies on your big board? I use the Friedmans. Friedman power supplies I can recommend highly. I've had no problems with them. I've got 2 on my main pedal board powering everything, and they are road tested at this point. And a bunch of since I had the board done in 2017, I was using G-Lab before that. Also great. No problems with those. They're a little bigger, I will say. But both the G-Lab and the Friedmans have been flawless, and that's basically takes me going back 10 years as far as power supplies go. Oh, I really like this Eventide one too. This I will give this a plug because this is nice as well. This is the guy on my desk that why did it go? You ever take a picture and then it just orients sideways for some reason? It's like, no, I didn't mean to do that. It's not what I told you to do. You know what I meant. That's how I talk to my phone. That thing. Great power supply. You can see all the little red lights on there, and the little beside there, you can't really see it clear, but there's little dip switches that let you change, from 9 to 12 to 15 to 18 volt. And it'll do, on every single, there's 7 outputs, and it'll do up to 680, or is that what it says? 660 milliamps for the 9 volt outputs, and then up to 330 on the 18. And then it's got a USB out, as well. And that's awesome because now I can plug in my phone and that's into that power supply and charge it. So, when you're there at the rehearsal or whatever, you're like, oh shit, I got to plug my phone in, it's dying or whatever. Maybe you run an iPad for a set list or something. You can just plug it into your power supply. It's killer. So highly recommend that one too. It's really sweet. Hard to go wrong. There's Dave Friedman. Wow. He's a legend. What's up? Made for Eventide. Keox. That's John there. Keox. That's who it is. Made for Eventide. Good stuff. You like them too, Dave, don't you? I think. Lauren says that I've really frustrated EVH fans have been criticizing Wolf Van Halen for not playing Van Halen songs in his live set or for even using the initials Van Halen. It's like, yeah, that's ridiculous. Van Halen fans are a funny bunch, man. Let's take it all the way back and I've thought a lot about this, but the thing with Van Halen is they inspired a feeling in people back in the day that was very addictive. The lights go down at the show and the big chord comes in and the lights go crazy. And then Eddie comes out and he's friggin' brilliant, right? He was brilliant. And Dave and the whole thing. And it was just a great time. And it was like a high, that existed back then. Everybody just wants to feel like that again. That's the thing with rock bands and rock shows, and they just want to feel like they did when they felt like that when they were 14 or 15 or 16 and threw up on their shoes at the concert from their brother giving them alcohol before the show or whatever, and they just remember that as being like one of the greatest times of their lives, I think, right? And that thing, they want to feel it again. And so then all these guys get older and stuff, and because it is, let's be honest, it's mostly guys that are thinking about this stuff. It's not a lot of women saying, I don't think Wolfgang should tour as it's a bunch of like critical old men at this point, that are the haters or whatever. And they really, at the end of the day, they just want to feel like they felt back then. That's it. They want to get back to that place. So whether that means pestering Wolfgang to play Van Halen songs, or it's like, when I went out and I did the gig a couple weeks ago with Mitch Malloy, and some of the comments you get are funny because a lot of them are really positive, but a lot of them are like, one guy was like, the guitar's out of tune. You should have tuned it, especially the G string. I saw in the video. It's like, the Hot for Teacher drums start right after, Unchained or whatever. And you got to go into the tapping part. You don't really have time. And I don't have a tech. And it's like, so the G was a little flat or something. Who gives a shit, But they will criticize and they will be like, and at the end of the day, they just want to feel like they felt back then. That's all it is. I really think. And so they criticize and they nitpick and they talk about, why not, this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, dude, it's just supposed to be fun. And there'll never be another Eddie Van Halen that replaces Eddie Van Halen. It's not going to happen, So the best you can hope for is have some fun, listen to those tunes sometimes, celebrate the guy, and let Wolfgang go on and do his own thing. Because for God's sakes, he just wants to do his own thing. And he is the biggest, receiver of all of this energy and stuff that gets sent. And thank God he can write and play and do his own thing, because, it's like he's going to find his own fans that are, a younger generation and more his age group and more his peers and stuff like that. And all these old guys that want him to play Van Halen, it's like he's his own guy. Let him go do his own thing. There's plenty of other people. You can come see me occasionally play if I do another show doing that, playing Van Halen songs, or the different people that, it's like, we can celebrate the music and do it in a different way. But I'm trying to put a positive spin on it, that when they give him shit and when they, he just wants to be left alone and not get shit. But I'm trying to see their side of it. And from their side of it, they want to feel like they did when they were 14 again. It's this core primal thing where they just want to get back to that place, right? Like, being in love for the first time, or, whatever, your first whatever, and it's like moving on is sometimes hard for folks, I think. So it's a difficult thing. So anyway, saw Mammoth Wolf Van Halen open for GNR, and I personally thought they blew GNR off the stage. Hey man, he's a focused, dialed in dude, with great talent and great skills. And he's in the prime of his life, right now, age wise and everything. And he's got it. He's firing on all cylinders when it comes to all his abilities. So let's just let him do that, because, like, for God's sakes, we need that. We need rock on the charts and new music. We don't need to hear him play Panama. That's true. That's what he always says. Did you see the set list he put out where it had Panama every song? Anyway, so Stealth Parrot says, I was the guy who criticized I was the guy who criticized your Eruption solo. Looked at his, or I saw the guy, I was the guy. I know, Stealth Parrot. Anyways, yeah, I made a mistake on that, but it's funny how that goes. The one thing I've known how to play when I was 10, since I was 10, and I did. So you don't put a lot of thought into that, because it's like, well, I know how to play that. I also did it with Classic Rock Show 30 times on the road last year, like every night, right? And it always went well and everything. And so I made a mistake in the middle, and it's like I started laughing, when I made the mistake, and because I was like, you got to be kidding me right now. Like, I played these other 20 songs. I had one other error that night. I won't even bring up, but that sort of pissed me off. But other than that, I had a pretty good show, and like 20 tunes. I was like, can I play a whole set of Van Halen? Like, this is a pain in the ass, and it's a tall order, right? And so the one thing I screw up is the thing I've known, the easiest thing that we all learned when we were 12. But I wasn't working on it that week, because I was like doing all this other stuff, like I got to be able to play DOA, and I got to be able to play I'm the One, and I need to be able to play Mean Street, with like credible solo. I need to improvise sort of at the end of Drop Dead Legs in that style and make it sound, so I was just focused on all that crap. And your brain has only so much ability to process and absorb and everything, So, but I find it funny. But this is the thing with the Van Halen stuff, is like I'm saying, anybody that goes on there and is criticizing and nitpicking and all the little details and stuff like that, it's funny to me, because it's like, God, you guys, like, this music was really fun party music back in the day. And in '84, when we went to the show, nobody was like, why are they playing, Girl Gone Bad 3 times as fast as it is on the record? Which it was, everybody sounded like they were on blow, like it was like just like fast and all that stuff. But we didn't think like that back then. We went and just went, because it was like a great time, And so all this like anal retentive stuff over every little detail when it comes to, it's like, I just wish this, the worst way to listen to a show is on the damn internet, on Instagram, or on like, some kind of, it's like, oh God, it's really like not conducive to rock and roll. And hearing something on YouTube or on your phone coming out of those little friggin' speakers is not like hearing a good old Martin PA stacked up on either side of the stage and coming at you at 110 dB. That whole experience. So we've changed the experience so much, and people get lost on it's supposed to be friggin' fun, I don't know. Anyways, missed a couple super chats, so I'm going to go back through them here. And September Fire, can you recommend an open sounding humbucker suitable for plugins and amps? Not to color too much, but take characteristics of what I'm plugged into. Well, anything. I mean, I feel like a Thornbucker does that well. And to be fair, a PAF type, anything sub 9K, I would say, that is, kind of not. Otherwise, it can tend to kind of take over a little bit, and paints you into that kind of high gain a little bit, driving the amp mid range. But, if you want to explore your amp's cleaner side and have some dynamics and stuff, I would say you want a PAF of some sort. So that's a wide open, so I know but the main thing is really the output, So, yeah, you killed it at the Mitch gig, says 40 grit. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You're not an EVH fan if you're dissing his son. What up, Friedman? I have my $200 deposit waiting. Well, that's between you guys, but no, I appreciate that 40 grit. Thanks. Yeah, it was a blast doing that gig. It was fun. It was a lot of it was pressure, I guess, but also we had a great time doing it. And I feel like if we got the chance to actually do it, it's one of those things where if you were 12 shows deep into it, now you really start having some fun. Where because keep in mind, none of us have ever even met one another. Well, Wayne and Mitch had, the drummer and the singer, you know, but the rest of it, we were all introduced for the first time. So to put that together in about 3 days and then go on stage and do it and try and make it sound like I feel like we did a really damn good job, to be honest. I made fast friends with those guys and we had fun, and that's all I care about, you know? So, Richard says, you give them too much credit. Some people just have to be haters. Well, I'm trying to see from their perspective why they end up going to that dark place of being a hater. But I'm trying to just say that I'm trying to see why they end up there in that place. And I really do think it's because they just want to feel a certain way. You know, they just want to be jazzed like they were without thinking about it. Like they, you know, now they're trying to rationalize like what's wrong, and you know, I can't Wolfgang, because you know Wolfgang played Van Halen songs and then they just criticized the way he did it. You know, they would just be like, oh, it's, you know, I mean, that band is, you're not gonna just let it be, you know, it's crazy, and let him do his own thing. So nutty. Yeah. John says, I think we should just leave Van Halen as it is. No cover band or tribute can do him justice. Well, there's nothing wrong with people playing music, you know, playing The Who or playing Led Zeppelin or playing the Beatles. I mean, it's fun. Go out and listen to it, but don't nitpick every little goddamn, you know, it's like, it's supposed to be, it's just fun. It's a cover, you know, you're going out and doing a cover. It's no different. Just let it be them interpreting the song the way it was. And if you like it, that's cool. If you don't, that's okay too. And there's nothing to it beyond that, you know? You know, it's all so precious. You know, Surf B says, you're right. It's about recapturing that feeling. It was a magic time. I mean, when, you know, the era of, you know, the concert, I feel like I was alive during when, you know, the 80s, I mean, the 70s for sure. And then concerts, 70s into the 80s, that was like a magic time for concerts. You know, when we get into the 90s, it starts to become festivals and also Ticketmaster, and things got a little different. Like when the 80s was still where I could line up outside and buy tickets and get third row floor if I got there early enough in line for $12.50, you know. I love that, you know. So that's part of the magic, you know, of it all, like in the innocence of it, and there was no internet. And you know, I recently saw the Oasis documentary that's on Netflix. Is quite good, and it kind of covers them through the 90s until, I don't know if it was Glastonbury or some big show that they played around 96, but it covers this time. And I think it's Noel makes a point that this was a magic time right before the internet really exploded and became a thing. And the way that people were still experiencing music and stuff was you know, it was a perfect sort of storm and culmination to that gig for them, because they were so huge then, especially in the UK, but all over the world. But you know, and he says he's got an astute observation about how it all coincided with that gig for them, and how they'd really arrived to being probably, you know, one of the biggest bands in the world at that point, and certainly on their home turf, and how it was just before internet, just, you know, there's no phones, there was no like, and it was like, and he also makes the great observation, and this is, I forgot about this, but he makes the observation in that movie that he said, people will never forget the way you make them feel, which is really ties into actually my, you know, they just want to feel the same, you know, as you know, when they were 14, and they will never forget the way you make them feel. And Oasis had that effect for, you know, when they would play those, they like them or hate them, you know, they had those epic tunes, those sing-alongs that, you know, Don't Look Back in Anger and stuff, where the whole crowd is just, you know, that beautiful thing. It's like it's tribal, man, you know, it's amazing. So, anyways, okay. Here's a question about some of the SIR pickups. Tonal difference between the SSV plus and DSV plus. It looks like you asked a previous question, but I can tell you the difference with the DSV, the double screw. For those that don't know, SS and DS mean single screw and double screw, I do believe. And the double screw has double rows of screw pull pieces, you know, the flathead screw style pull pieces, instead of a slug coil and a screw coil. And the effect is that they sound a little warmer. I don't know why, but when you don't have that slug coil, when you have the screws, it changes the tone a little bit. So that's going to be the difference, is it's going to be not as bright. And you're saying guitar is light and brightish. Maybe you want a slightly darker sound. So Pretty sure that the original Alan Holdsworth pickups, like, didn't Duncan make them or something? But I think they had double screw, and he was always kind of like that round tone, like a little more, saxophony or whatever. Purposeful Porpoise is up there in the super chat. Excuse me. And he's saying, might trade him a super lead for Tweed Deluxe. No. The answer is no. Super lead for Tweed Deluxe. I wouldn't, if it's a vintage super lead, you want to get a Tweed Deluxe. I mean, it's a very, we're talking about two different things here. Tweed Deluxe to me is like super Neil Young, and 80s shred tone. No, it's too different, man. Because once again, this gets into speaker type and cabinet, and a closed back cab with a greenback or V30 is such a different thing than an open back deluxe thing, which is that pillowy. So the thing is, you'll never get that tight, chunky. I'm thinking a lot about cabinet type here, but that's one thing. But also, it's just kind of a different. Yeah, short answer, no. I don't think so. It's one or the other. Ben Coombs, thanks for catching this. Missed SC Modern Vintage. John Sir's thoughts on leaving guitars out on rack stands in good humidity. In the case, he always recommends the fret protector, and I would recommend the fret protector too. I used to think, it's no big deal. But you know what? The reality is with stainless steel, I've had more than a couple of my Sirs get nicks in the frets. And this is on the road under like traveling conditions. Where the guitars can bounce around and stuff like that. And if the strings hit the frets hard enough, they do get nicks in them. And that is it gets ding, 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 ding every time you bend past it. And it's hard to get out, those little nicks in the frets. So the fret protector is a good idea with the guitar in the case, even though it's a bit of a pain in the butt. It's part of the pain in the butt that any guitar with stainless steel frets, I would recommend. If you're flying it or something, it's in a case and the whole guitar, maybe they toss the case upside down, so now the guitar lands like on the tarmac on its face, and the part of that takes the impact is the strings hitting the frets, right? That kind of thing. That's where you're going to get those nicks in your frets, and a pain in the ass to get them out, and it'll piss you off to you can actually hear it ding and the string goes past the little nick in the fret. So as far as leaving guitars out, I don't know how John feels about this, but I like having a guitar available to me, like on the stand. I play them more when they're out, which is why you see them in here, like lying around all over the place, because I want to, where's my Les Paul? Oh, I'll go back and grab it, and then I can put, track apart. If it's in a case or something, it's one further step to making music that I don't want to have to take. So yeah, what else we got here? Can you say any more about the EVH guitar tone plugin that might be coming? You just reminded me about that, and I just set a reminder for myself about that, so I'm going to do that right now without saying anything about it. Remind me at 4 p.m. to do something with the EVH guitar plugin. There's a company that has something that they're doing where they're kind of doing a super lead, style plugin and stuff like that, where it's just, that's all I'll say, because that's all I know, and I do have to check it out. So I'll shut up now. Let's see. The community was different in the 80s. A little bit, The internet ruined music, ruined any ability to become something big. I would disagree with that. You guys wouldn't know me if it weren't for the internet. So I don't know about big, if you mean big like Van Halen or Journey, but we still have our Adeles and, whatever, Maroon 5s and whatever bands are really big and popular these days that did it during the internet generation, right? So, I have mixed feelings about it. I don't think it's that cutting. I think it's a big gray area, and it's the Wild West, but you wouldn't have, I know it's different, but music has always changed. The way we get opposed music, the way we get presented, to different music, and the way music becomes popular. I mean, from the, let's say that, turn of the 20th century through now has been an interesting arc of recorded music and recordings becoming a big deal. The way that artists toured and played live, the way that, getting into the 50s and the 60s, record companies, and the way that it all developed, right? By the end of the 60s, it's like now we're getting into the big concert era, arenas, and, stadiums eventually and stuff like that, and a whole industry developing around that with PAs and lighting and shows, and that shit didn't exist before. It was like people did, it was clubs and little gigs, and it wasn't like on that scale. Big crowd was probably like 1,000 people or something at a like imagine like what the 50s were like, and I have no idea, but then it all just evolved into this thing, and then we got into the digital era of CDs and everything, and then it evolved, out of that into downloads and stuff, and now we've got whatever the hell we got now. But it's constantly changing, and it'll constantly change. It'll keep changing, and I don't think it's ruined music. I wouldn't say that. I think the way that people, like keep in mind that vinyl is, I mean, there's record stores that are exceptional in like every small town in America. Vinyl is a thing, and it's a subculture. And to get as I understand it, to get a record mastered and released in vinyl, there's a backlog now for the places that do that stuff, vinyl mastering and production and stuff like that. If you want to get your record out, it's like you need to think a year in advance, and because it's such a subculture, so people still care about that stuff. It's just a more of a subculture on a different thing now, on a different scale. People love great audio and hi-fi, and that's a huge industry, but it's a subculture. It's not, it just used to be that you couldn't listen to something on your phone or earbuds if that's what you wanted to, which is now how most people listen. But there's still a healthy amount of people. John Sir is one of them that has a home theater with an amazing speaker system and likes to go in there, and that's how he likes to experience music. So it's just different now. Something big, I don't know, but I wouldn't have a career like this if it weren't for this ability to connect with you guys in the internet. So we wouldn't be here. So it's different, and there's different opportunities, and that sort of thing. So Paul says, I learned so much on last week's show. That was with Brian from Top Hat. He's got a great knowledge of tube amps and stuff. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. It was good. Thomas says, I thought it was the 90s that ruined music. No way, man. Come on, we had Soundgarden. It's like Super Unknown. Come on. Jeff Buckley. My God, like unbelievable time for music for me. In retrospect, maybe if you're coming out of the 80s and you love that, you like to party and you like the, that style of, the 80s rock or whatever. And then we got in the 90s. Yes, it got darker, but it was different, and it was equally great, just different, I think. Could you say something about selection blackback versus greenbacks? Hendrix played blackbacks? No, Hendrix played greenbacks, but the Hendrix speakers, as I understand it, his preferred was the bass cone greenback. Sorry, bass cone H30. So the heavier magnet, H30 style with the 55 hertz. But he probably used a lot of different stuff, That's just always a speaker that gets attributed to him. But blackbacks are just a designation of when they change the color on the, the speaker, the plastic, thing on the back of the speaker to black. They went from green to cream to black, different times. The speakers around the late 70s sound to me a little different than the earlier ones I've heard. If anything, like I would say brighter, a little more aggressive, but it's in a good way. It's not a like tinny bright or a fizzy bright or anything. They just sound cool. The late 70s, and you got to take into consideration 76, 77, 78, 79. A lot of great rock and roll was done then, and those would be the speakers in Marshall cabinets if you bought one new around then, be it an H magnet or an M magnet. And I just find them to be a little more aggressive than most of the, pulsonic cone, like late 60s, which are equally as cool. It's just slightly different sound to me. There was a fire or something at Celestion. I think it was around like 73 or 2 or something like that. I don't know. Somebody out there probably knows. But I heard that whatever with the original cones and paper and something was lost in that fire or something. And then they, it changed a little bit after that. I don't know why exactly. Somebody tell the story. Somebody's got it. But as legend would have it, the sound changed a little bit around then. But certainly, I think that the late 70s speakers, that's what I use. I mean, the blackbacks I have 2 different cabinets with blackbacks that are like my recording cabinets. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Zed says, hear what you're saying, but in the 70s, you could rely on your talent. Now mediocre with money trumps talent. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm going to use my Billie Eilish and Phineas example. Those, basically kids. I mean, they're grown ups now, but like she's a flawless friggin' singer. She sings so good live. They were huge Beatles fans growing up and had appreciation of music, and they just learned how to use computers and stuff to make the music they wanted to make so well. And like Phineas is amazing talent. Adele, whatever, Amy Winehouse. I mean, how many good examples can I come up with of some amazing stuff over the last, 15 years that has happened musically? One of my favorite albums of all time is Beck Morning Phase. That album came out in 2013. I mean, it's an unbelievable sounding record. Brian Wilson level, crazy good. So there's all kinds of good shit out there, man. I feel like I love new music. I don't know. Maybe I just feel different than a lot of you dudes that are around my age out there. But like that, I gave the example of the new Halsey album, which I just love. Sounds like 90s good, 90s Nails to me, with her on it, and I love it. I think it sounds amazing. No stupid digital hi-hats and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff that I hear now that I don't like, that's like, God, another friggin', digital hi-hat, crap. But there's also a lot of new stuff I like. Have you heard new Johnny Marr? Not maybe the newest, but I love Johnny Marr, man. That guy is just timelessly cool. He's one that's definitely made from the 90s through. He's so cool. He's a great, growing old gracefully. He's not that old, but I mean, you know what I mean? Getting older. So a lot of people ask me about Jacob. Have you seen Jacob DeRaps? He's the best at imitating every great guitar god. I'm well aware of him. His dad was sending me his clips when he was like 16. And yeah, he plays great. He does it, really cool. He does it great. I don't want to say anything other than, it's like, it should be, I don't like the, like, who's the best imitator, like, stuff, I think it's cool because a lot of people can imitate, Guthrie was great at it, right? And Guthrie made this, statement around that. Remember when he came up with the video where he plays like every great guitar player, and he did like little clips like BB King and then into, Al Di Meola into like, and he had this one video. And then at one point he made this decision, like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. Now what you're going to hear from me is me, and I think that that's a good thing, although we could still dabble in having fun with like I don't really care about being the world's greatest Eddie Van Halen imitator. That's not a goal of mine. Like, I find it really fun to play that music once in a while and delve into it and play a set of it and just party because it's like, it's a great time. But I want to put out my own records and do my own projects too. It's just I have a certain skill set, because of my background as a sideman for learning material and getting tones right and stuff like that. So that's fun, and that's like one thing. But like, I'm not really interested in the greatest imitators of anybody on a personal level. That's just me. I don't know. I want to keep writing. I'm a songwriter at the core, right? That's what I do, is write music and release it in my own weird little way in pedal videos or the occasional solo album or things that I do. That's what I really get off on. Like writing, creating, sitting here, coming up with something and listening to it back and going, oh, I love where this is going. That's what turns me on the most. Dabbling in learning songs and playing, that served me well in my sideman career, and doing that. It's not my primary thing, though. It's more like the hobby thing I've done since I was 12 or 14 years old that just sort of parlayed into a career path. Does that make sense? So, anyways. Yeah. What else we got here? Looking back through some of the questions here. Pete, you know where to find the good music. It's out there, man. There's so much great stuff. If you just, there's some amazing music, The super chats are being skipped entirely. I'm sorry if I'm missing some of them. Maybe Ben can help me out. I can go back and see most of them here. That's not true, though, dude. I've highlighted a whole bunch of them. I've just probably missed a few because I'm on a tangent. I've got a lot of coffee in me. Here's one. Sorry, Deshaun, but I'm here for you. For EP3, DMM, and digital delay, suggestions. And if I've missed ones before this, I apologize. And maybe Ben, can you help me? Or just post them again down, and I'll go right down to the bottom of the chat if somebody asks a super chat, and I'm going to go through them in 60 seconds here, and I'll just ask the question one more time, and I'll get to them right now, I promise. Okay, for live and recording, research Bell Deluxe Epoch, EP103, Electro-Harmonic Storage Memory Man, Starlight, Volante, El Cap. We'll buy one of each type. So you're asking what's great for analog, Memory Man, and digital. Like the premier. Well, okay. I really think that, to be honest, the MXR Dunlop version of the Echoplex is fantastic. The George Trips one, so look no further for that. Deluxe Memory Man, I'm pretty partial to the stuff from is it Diamond, the Canadian company? Is that who made the? Oh, I'm gonna screw this up. That's not it. The guys that did the it's a Canadian Empress. Sorry, Empress. Those ones, years ago, they came up with basically a Memory Man that is all analog with the right circuitry, but they do the delay part digital. And that was what's the Empress one? That they've got a few different versions of it, but there's always sound for that particular sound. They sound great, and they seem to have the headroom, because the thing that always bugs me with Memory Mans is that they don't have headroom. Having said that, I think the new Rocket is really good at it too, because it was designed actually by the maker of the Memory Man. They call it the Clockwork, I think. And the Sir analog delay is probably the best analog delay ever made that I've heard. I did a video of it recently. Kevin Sir designed it, and it's incredible. Whether or not it's a dead nuts Memory Man, I don't really care. It's an unbelievable sounding analog delay that just everybody should listen to and hear at least once, because it's amazing. Programmable and all that stuff. Digital, PCM, 42 probably, right? Or but if you want to get a new one, it's I don't know. You're asking DD200 and 500. I mean, a DD500 will do it great. DD200 will do it great too. If you just want a good digital thing, the Strymon, it's the easiest thing to do these days. If it's got 24-bit 96K converters, and digital is pretty much a straight up reproduction of the. Now that said, part of what people like is maybe the old school crunchy, or some of the stuff in the circuitry of like a PCM 42. I do know of somebody that's doing a PCM 42 kind of pedal soon and working on that. It's probably going to be very expensive and stuff, but there's a lot of circuitry in a PCM 42. So, and there's a sound to it, and the guys who know, they know it's like a real, it's a good thing. Tell us a Cornell story. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one for a minute. I've probably told the story about when I was in rehearsals with him for like at the beginning. I was maybe like 2-3 days into the gig, like having the gig, and where he came in, he's kind of quiet and brooding a lot, still trying to get to know the boss or whatever. And he said one time, he goes like, this was at a big, sort of, looks like a scoring stage, but the rehearsal studios we have here in LA at the pro places are like great big open rooms, and he's got a stool, it's like a bar stool, that he was sitting on, and he wasn't saying much, and he said, I wonder if I could get this stool in that garbage can over there. And there was a garbage can by the door, and it was all the way across. I mean, it was far across the room. And I was like, what? Like, excuse me? Like, what do you mean? He's like, I wonder if I could get the stool from here into that garbage can. And it wasn't computing, because we were like just playing a song or something. Then he says that. And then he picked up the stool and he threw it across the room. And it hit the wall above the garbage can. And, there's a Cornell story. There's a sense of humor. We got him a slingshot for his birthday once. There's another short one. True story. He broke it the first time he tried to use it. He was super excited, and he pulled it back and with the thing, and it snapped. The rubber snapped, and he broke it. So that's Cornell. Okay. Did anybody ask? I'm going to look here and see for super chat questions that I've missed, evidently, because. Let's see. Here's one. Sorry. So I missed one of yours. Sorry there, Mr. Sweaty Van Halen. Do you ever pinch yourself, realize how far you've come as a musician playing with legends? Yeah, dude. No, it's not lost on me. But the weird thing is, in my mind, I still feel like I'm getting started. Like I still feel like a beginner in a way or something. Or like I'm like, you know, you ever, like I saw a, meme or whatever once that said, like, you ever look back on your life and think, like, I've been through so much shit. But I do that where it's a equal parts like, God, this has been a long road of like 30 years of stuff at this point. But also I feel like what's next, like, and it all feels like distant and close at the same time, all these things. And I don't know, I still feel like it's new or something. I don't know how else to describe it. So Pete Thorn missed super chat. Check out David Bromberg. I don't know that name. Musicians. Okay. Oh, and here's another one. Thanks, Ben. God, Ben, you're rocking me today. Really appreciate this. Use own hammer IR cabs with your PT100 plugin. How do I do that? Can I use own hammer? Well, you need to use, no, you can't do it with the plugin. Well, you can do it, but you just need to have a separate IR loader. So in the PT100 plugin, disable the cabinet portion. I think in the drop-down menu, when you can select cabinets in the PT100, there's an option for no cabinet. And you select that in the PT100. I think that's how you do it. And then you just need to use another plugin after in your DAW. You could use Wall of Sound 3. You could use ZillaCab from Get Good Drums. You could use any kind of IR loader and load the own hammer IRs in there. So that's how you do it. Let me know if that makes sense. I think so. Here's another one. Oh, I did that one. Did that one already. We need Taylor Momsen on the show. I know Taylor a little bit. I met her at the Chris Cornell tribute concert. That's the first time I met her. And Taylor's she's amazing, man. Her band is kick ass. She's interesting. And I hope sometime I get to do something with her, as far as do a tune. Because I've sent her actually some riffs and shit like that. And we sort of talked about it. But anyway, she's super cool. Her band's badass. Yeah. I'm just looking back to see if I missed any more chats that anybody's asked here. Here's just a good question. Do you feel comfortable recording a complete album using VSTs? Yeah, I would be fine with that. And I've often thought about doing that, maybe with the PT100 plugin or something, like limiting myself to that for the amp sounds and just going, I'm going to use this and do a whole record with it. Because it would kind of be neat to do that, I think. And also just be a cool workflow. So, yeah. Any idea if Sir will be doing any reiterations to modern 80s in the future? Those guitars that came out with a few years ago. I don't know, but it's a custom shop, so you can always order whatever you want from them to this day. That's important to keep in mind. Sir has a ton of options, and you can order whatever you want, basically. So, yeah, you could get whatever you need. Okay. Now I'm going to head down some of the new chats here. Ever do any busking? No, but I often thought about it because I used to live in Santa Monica, and it's like tons of down there on the 3rd Street Promenade people, busking stuff. And I thought, God, I could probably come out here and do this. It would be fun, but I never did. So I've never really done that. There's a couple other super chats I think I missed. John, he's on the way to missing my super chat. They go so fast. Like, how can you, look at I can see some in here in the thing. They just go, especially the $5 ones, they disappear, it's like, and, they go quick. I wish they just left them up there for a while. It would be nice. But Rich says, just thank you for all the super chats, by the way. You guys are too kind. You keep me in coffee here. Keep our studio coffee maker in good shape. Just sampled each song and bought Morning Phase. Great record. About to ride the motorcycle. Oh, that's a great ride, dude. With that on, I love nice drives with that record. So get into it. The first song will just take you to it's You're not going to get a speeding ticket. I'll put it to you that way. And it's great. Anyways, okay, what else we got here? Matt Beckley. What's up, buddy? How you doing? You back home, hanging, recuperating? Matt and I were in Wisconsin all week, having a good old time. A good old time, Wisconsin style. We ate lots of cheese. It was awesome. Thoughts on the UA Gold and Reverb? Any other suggestions? I did one video with it, and I haven't had a lot of time to experiment with it beyond that. So I need to just spend a little bit more time with those UA pedals. Other suggestions? For reverb, my main reverbs have been the Eventide H9 variants on my board for quite some time. It's just the programmability and the different algorithms. I use the black hole and the spring and whatever the earth reverb is in there. I don't know if that's a hull or a plate or what it is, but it just sounds really nice for kind of a transparent reverb. So the H9 is a great choice for, as a jack of all trades. Other nice reverbs. I mean, Strymon's got some really nice. I've got a Flint that I've always really liked. So there's some other choices, What's your favorite wah pedal? What's funny is it's actually the my favorite that I've ever had is the controversial Axis wah from Vertex. It always sounded so good to me, and then Mason got in a lot of trouble, selling the Axis, and it's basically a BBE. So I guess it's the BBE. But the interesting thing is the BBE, which I think can be had for under $100, is I believe it's whatever Clyde McCoy, whatever Vox, whatever they found for an old wah and then copied it. Whatever they chose was really great, and it's a great sounding. So I would say the BBE. Other great ones. I recently did a demo with Dave's, the Friedman wah, and it's really nice. I loved the John Petrucci wah when I did a video of it. You can see the demo video I did of it probably 4 years ago or something when it first came out. That pedal had a really cool throaty bitchin' sound to it, like really cool aggressive sweep. I know Dave's a fan of the Cantrell one too. He likes it. I've never tried it. So there's a bunch. I'm not a wah guy though, really. I play it when I have to. Occasionally I use it on solos, and I'm like, this is totally what this thing needed right here, the perfect thing. But I felt like it was one of those overused kind of things for a long time, so I sort of stay away from it. But every now and then I'm like, oh yeah, a little wah right now would be good. And I tell you, I just have the little Dunlop Mini on my board because it fits. It's small, and I can't put a full size wah with the pedals that I have on there, so it worked, and it's totally fine. It's a little hard to, you got to pick and choose your footwear choices, because I can't really wear boots or something with it, and it's a little limiting that way because the pedal's only like this long. So if you've got a heel or something, and then it can be a little, now I can't get the sweep of the wah going. It just doesn't work. So I remember actually wearing boots one night doing a classic rock show, and I've been wearing shoes every night on the road. And then I wore this pair of boots, and I realized I couldn't use my wah, and I had to play Voodoo Child. And I said to my tech, you've got to go downstairs right now and get my shoes. They're in the dressing room right here, and she was like, bam, my tech on the road with classic rock show. She goes, okay, I gotta do a couple things, and I'll go, no, I have like 60 seconds. You've got to go right now. Ran downstairs and got it, and I changed my shoes really quick in between songs or whatever, so I could play Voodoo Child on my Dunlop Mini wah. Yeah, I tested it. I hadn't thought of it. I'd never worn this pair of shoes with the wah, and I looked at the pedal and I went, this is the kind of shit I think about on stage while I'm playing a song. It's like, I don't think this is going to work, and I put my foot down on the pedal and it wouldn't sweep properly. Ugh. God. Tell you what, any new gear in this week? There's some things that showed up because I've been away, so some things showed up for me to make videos of and stuff. But I don't even know there was a Dave Friedman. If you're still here, you saw there's, by my facility, there's some things waiting for me. So, anyways, I'll get into it and figure out what it is. I've got all kinds of stuff coming. There's a guitar that came from. I can't remember where it came from now. It might be UK or Ireland. That is an amazing guitar in that it's acoustic and electric, and is I think it's carbon fiber mostly, and it's got a crazy look to it and stuff. And it is an unbelievable feat of engineering the way this thing is. I mean, when you see it, it's impeccably made, but it's very unique and different. So I'm going to do a video of it. What else have I got coming? Just a whole bunch of stuff. The Boss. Oh yeah, I do have this. Let's see here. This guy. Right? You've seen this, I'm sure. So gonna give that a go. See what we can do with that on a musical level. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Any new signature stuff you're working on? Yep. That's all I can say. But soon, in the new year, it's coming. What else we got? Eddie was really into wah using on the last few tours. Yeah, well, he got a signature wah, which I like too, by the way, and I have a couple of them. And it was my wah on my board for a while. It's a good sounding wah. It's cool. But yeah, he got into the neck pickup and the wah. What's going on back there? I hear something. Is there a creature in here? Small badger? Something? Okay, what else we got here? Kirk Hammett killed the wah for me. He played the wah a lot. He did. A lot of wah going on. Danny can relate to my small wah story. Something's like clicking over here. What's this? Shut up. Stop that. For sakes. Concentrate. Got a show going here. Anyway, slipping off the whole pedal board, never mind the wah. I never road tested the boots, but they sure look good. Yeah, these are the kinds of things, right? You gotta, it's like wardrobe malfunctions. That's all they are. Did I miss any of super chats? I don't think so. I think we got to them all. Hopefully. Jerry Cantrell wah is great. Yeah, I quite liked it. Any Morley fans? The Morley wahs are cool because they do that, the optical thing where you don't got to hit the switch, which is pretty cool. Yeah. RMC is excellent. I've never tried one of those. I've tried a fair amount. I mean, the exotic, the full tone variant, the whatever the wah that's got the switchable range and stuff. It's white, made by them. It was cool too. I break them a lot. I tend to break them. Like one night at the Viper Room, I was playing with Steve Stevens and Sebastian Bach, and I did some solo where I hit the wah and it just went dead. And I was like, I remember looking down, flipping off my pedal board. And of course, somebody filmed it and put it on the internet. But I went to go do the solo and died, and I was like, that was the moment from that night that somebody posted on the internet, because that's what people do. But I don't know, what are you gonna do? It's like things happen. But yeah, I went through a lot of wahs at one, like 3 different wahs at one point, where like my axis the switch stopped being reliable and working right. Then I went to the exotic, and same thing happened on it, where it would cut out, and I was like, what's my deal with wahs? And I'll tell you what, the Dunlop Mini just works, and I'll deal with wearing the right shoes to just use it, because it's flawless and I have no problems with it. A lot of times, man, gear is like about what works. It's like I just want something to work, not be a pain in the ass. Like, because the minutia of what different wah you're using in a venue is very small. Compared to if the sound goes dead, is very big. So, reliability is of premier utmost importance to me. And I tend to find, honestly, like the Boss pedals, the MXR pedals, the stuff that's tried and true. That's the stuff that is cool, that you want to, look at that. Beckley sent me a super sticker. Matt, how come your first name is not capitalized? Come on, get over there to YouTube and change that. You gotta fix that up. You're a classy guy. Oh, okay. Here's the deal. Diamond are now out of business. We were talking Memory Mans earlier. Okay, I didn't know that. That's too bad. It's probably like pandemic stuff, or that's unfortunately. But those were some great ones. The Memory Lane Junior and Memory Lane 2. Those are both great variants on the Memory Man. Yeah. Steve says, when recording as a blade, are you using cab software, the real deal? I use both. And it's not, news. It's been widely reported, but both Friedman and I are coming out with signature packages for 2 notes. So, our signature cab packages. So some unique cabinets of mine that we took to Sunset Sound and made some of their, Dyne IRs, whatever they call them, for their platform. So that's coming out in about a month, and you'll be able to get, a bunch of my cabinets basically. And they sound killer. They're great. So I've been using that because I've been, kind of just doing R&D and making sure that they all work good and stuff like that. And, more to be announced about that. I'll have a video in about a month coming out for that. But I got to recommend that. You can get Wall of Sound and then my cabinet pack and use it within Wall of Sound. And, there's nice EQ and some compression and stuff in there, and some, not compression, sorry, EQ and reverb that you can add to it. So it works really, really well. So that's what I'm going to recommend for software. But I use both, man, because I feel like I can, many times I just use my cabinet in the other room mic'd up because that's great. Sounds great. Got my mic pre's in here dialed in. It sounds really good. Blend 2 microphones on the cab and get a great sound. Now, what happens if I want to do an open back combo? And for that, I tend to go to the aux a lot of times because it's got some great open back sounds that are in there with room mics. What if I want to do room mics? Well, can't do that here. So, so it's those times that I go to the digital stuff and do the load box cabinet stuff on the back end when I want to get some different sounds. If I want a mic'd up greenback, not every time, but I will tend to use the cab in the other room because that's what I have set up. So, I've got friends with studios where they've got every cab under the sun mic'd up, like, very extravagant home studios that are like, you've got your V30 cab, your open back 212, your greenback cab, whatever, and everything's all mic'd and ready to go. And that would be the dream, but what you can do these days with the cabinet software is unbelievable, be it the Wall of Sound or, even, what's going on in the aux, or with just impulse responses from Celestion or whatever. It's amazing. And it doesn't, nobody. Here's the thing. And did you guys see this thing with Tim Henson and the Boomer Benz controversy and all that, which he kind of backpedaled on and was like, it's not a big deal. I think he was just, making an offhand comment or whatever, speaking his mind. But it's just kind of funny. Oh, is my mic is switched into Omni right now. Not supposed to be. It's supposed to be in cardioid. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Don't get quite the proximity effect when I'm here. Anyways, what was my point? Boomer Benz, that whole controversy. I just posted on Twitter a reply to that whole thing. Guitar World sent out the article or whatever. And I said, it doesn't matter how you do things. Like, it doesn't matter how you get there. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how you played it. Nobody cares if you used hammer-ons and pull-offs or picked every note or sweep-picked it. Nobody cares if you use the tremolo bar to bend or bent with your fingers or don't bend at all. Nobody cares. If it sounds good, it's good. That's it. So don't limit yourself to... Nobody cares if you use a pick on the nylon string guitar. Nobody cares if you use a plug-in. Nobody cares if you use impulse responses. Nobody cares if you use mics on cabinets. Nobody cares that listens. Just the geeks get into the, we get into the minutia of, well, I wonder how, but that's the nerdery of it. If it sounds good on the record, it's good. A lot of my last record I did at home, on using the aux or the reactive load, because I could cut solos and, work late at night, with headphones, no sound, or very quiet through monitors. And I liked working like that. It was like, no, it just doesn't matter anymore. You use the tools, don't get caught up in the, I remember hearing a story about Chris Rock talking, I believe it was Chris Rock, the comedian, the actor, talking to Jack White about his process. And Jack was always very purist about the way he recorded things. And I admire that. And I think it's neat to get into, sometimes I think these limitations are good. Like, I'm going to record all analog or live off the floor to 2-track or whatever. Like that's fun shit, But at the end of the day, nobody cares how it was done. And he said that to him. He's like, dude, nobody cares. They like the song, Like, does anybody really care if Seven Nation Army or whatever was done in Pro Tools or done to analog? No. if it sounded like that song, they like the song, and the song blows up and becomes a, so it doesn't matter how it was done. And whether you use plugins or whether you use amps, nobody cares. September Fire, nobody cares. Yeah. Jack takes himself way too seriously. I love Jack White. I'm a big fan. He's a rock star. But it's just as long as it sounds good, it's good. If it's emotional impact, then it's all good. So people care if you use active pickups. You never quit, and you never will. So Matt was musically directing the musical that I just did in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and the running joke all week was the EMGs in my guitar, because I took the Silver Sur with the EMGs. So he's always like, "Dude, are you using active pickups?" And then of course he played the guitar, and he's like, "This guitar sounds so good," right? You're gonna have all EMGs in all your guitars. Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Zachary says, "Can you explain the Boomer Benz thing?" I never even saw his original comment, so I don't want to screw it up. I think the gist of it is that he made... Are my glasses crooked? This is what's really important. I think they got bent in my pocket the other day. I think he made some comment about bending, and how, like he was saying, like, a lot of like he was commenting on maybe like the difference between his playing and then like older players that did a lot of bends and kind of blues bends, like maybe in between the minor, major, third kind of bends, and saying how he didn't like, that wasn't really part of his sound. And he said, boomer bends, that's not like really what I do, or something like that. I think that's the gist of it, which is fine. And I don't think he meant to put down or say it was worse if people do that or anything. He was just saying it was something along those lines. Now, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but because he said, "Hey, I never said you couldn't bend, just saying that like it's not really my deal," or whatever, But anyway, bending is what makes the guitar cool, because you can get in between notes that obviously you can't on a keyboard unless you're Jan Hammer with the pitch wheel. We all know what that sounds like, Miami Vice. But it's a silly thing to worry about. I mean, to me, it's like more about whether you're bending a note. Like when I saw Jeff Beck play and realized that he really doesn't actually bend that much. He basically uses the bar to do everything. That was really interesting. I was like, God, he doesn't really bend strings, and he doesn't really play chords. And that's why he never has to tune, because he's constantly on the bar with his the way he plays melodies and stuff, and he just bends the bar, and then to like a singer would, Interesting. Once again, nobody cares. As long as it sounds good, it's like, because I didn't care. I just know it sounds amazing when he plays. So, do you know if Steve Stevens coming to Europe on the upcoming Billy Idol tour? I don't know, but I know they just did some dates in Vegas. They did, another residency there, and I think it just ended. I should ask you to play also. I would love to do that, but they've got a great second guitar player in Billy Morrison, who's been a part of it for quite some time now, like over 10 years, I think. And those guys, they seem like once that band settled in, like the Idol touring band, I got a couple of really good friends in that band. A few, actually. I mean, I basically know the whole band except for the bass player. And I'm the one that referred their keyboard player. Paul Trudeau has done it for a long time. And their drummer, Eric Aldanius, also a good friend of mine that I've known for many years and played going back 20 years in bands with and stuff. So I know all those dudes. And they're like a great unit that seems to get along really well and do their thing and have a good time out there. So seems like they got a good thing going. Oh, yeah. How do you get started reviewing gear, being a session musician or sideman? Well, the gear thing really goes back to me working in music stores when I was a kid. So going all the way back to when I was a teenager, I had an interest in the equipment and used to hang out in music stores and hassle the people in there and probably drive them crazy. And I was always buying their guitar magazines, and I was really into the gear. So started working in shops when I was 16 or 17. And, then you'd have to talk about the gear, about pedals, and people be like, I want to get a delay pedal. What have you got? Well, this one's really cool if you want an analog delay, or this one. It's basically what I do now, right? Hi, I'm Pete Thorn, your Sweetwater sales engineer. how's that working out for you? That DD2 that I sold you 10 years ago. No, I never did that. But essentially, worked in music shops and stuff, and also taught. So that's the other thing I did, was teach in when I was 16, I got a job working for a local store, and they had a teaching studio with little studios. Basically it was like a built-out office space with little music studios in it. And I got a job there. And by the time I was 17, I was teaching like 30, 35 kids a week. So I had a great job. I was making good money for being 17 years old, and going there to work after school and all day Saturday. And also working in their shop sometimes, because they had music stores as well, the same company in Edmonton. So combine all that with playing in bands and stuff, and then moving to LA when I was 19, going to music school and all that. And I come out the other end of that, and, was a primary, just before the internet, just playing and touring and stuff like that for a number of years, working on original bands, mainly, that kind of thing. And then also getting gigs as a sideman occasionally in between original bands. Well, by the time I got to about early 30s, I was like, I don't think I can do this original band, build it from scratch, like, tour in a van with no money and all that stuff for you get tired of doing it after maybe 10 years or something. You're like, but I still want to play guitar. And so what can I do? Well, I started doing more sideman stuff then. My first sideman gig really was with Adam Cohen. I'd been in tons of bands by then, in multiple different bands with record deals and stuff. But the first sideman gig was really Adam Cohen, his son of Leonard Cohen. He had a deal on Columbia Records, and we went out on tour, did stuff in Europe and Canada and the US and blah, blah, blah. Then it was Blinker the Star. Then it was a band called, 40 Foot Echo after that. And, which was kind of a sideman, kind of a band thing, but I played on the record. I was part of the band, but hired guy, wasn't on the record deal. And then Robbie Draco Rosa was a big Latin artist, and toured all over South America with him and stuff. And Five for Fighting, toured with them. They had hits and stuff. And then Jewel, and then Chris Cornell. And then it got bigger from there. That's my story. What else we got here? Somebody was asking about hand problems earlier, and I didn't really address it. I have had some issues with my hands, like the left one in particular, but also my right hand, with nerve issues and just kind of like, pins and needles, that kind of thing. Maybe a little pain every now and then, or feeling like something popped in my hand. I have these things every now and then. So I've grown to be very careful with the way that I play and warm up, and also just be cognizant of all, that stuff. And I find if I warm up and I don't beat up my hands too much when I first start playing, that I just have to warm up, and I know that. And I have to warm up for about 20 or 30 minutes. And then I feel like I'm there. Okay, now I can play and I don't have these issues, but I got to get the blood flowing and all that stuff. And I just pay attention to that and don't push myself too much. And if I ever did have any problems, what I recommend doing if you ever have any trouble is going to a sports medicine kind of therapy, somebody that knows about these things, because they deal with these things all the time. So, yeah, learn some stretches, that kind of thing, ibuprofen, is helpful, I find. Yeah. Buzz says, huge Leonard Cohen fan, great lyricist. Yeah, and I believe Adam produced his last record. It's actually the fellow I was just saying that I did my first touring gig with. He was actually, kind of came full circle, and he was the producer of the last Leonard album. And I got to meet Leonard, and that was a thrill. And he's a legend and amazing. And Adam's great. He is a great artist in his own right, and has come out with some really cool stuff. He's got a career in France and in French, Canada, and Quebec and stuff, as well as English speaking, because he can sing in both languages and stuff, and so it's really cool. He's a good guy too, really nice guy. Let's see. Did people play Stairway to Heaven much in stores back then? Sure. Or Come As You Are in the early 90s. That was happening. Crazy Train. That was happening. It was the Metallica all open string thing. Nothing Else Matters. That was going on in the early 90s. Steven says, any word on taking the Van Halen experience on tour? No word on that yet, but I would be definitely open to doing more down the road. We had a lot of fun. So we will see. We'll see what time brings. Yeah. Okay, there's a super chat there from September Fire. After seeing the JC40 on that pedal show, I just may buy. What's a JC40? I don't even know. Fill me in. I've been out of town for a couple weeks. I'm a little out of it. Here's a thing I wanted to mention. We have 416 people online. All you nice people here. Thank you for being here. I wanted to mention that you may have noticed that I'm not around the internet that much lately, or IG or anything. I just kind of took a little break. I was getting a little burned out, and after 2 years in this room and stuff, and without making a big deal about it, I was like, I just need a little time off. So that's why I booked a couple things, like my friend Mr. Beckley here, who's talking about active pickups and stuff. He asked me to go to this musical, and I said sure. And also the Mitch Malloy gig. I thought it would be good for me to get out of my bubble a little bit, and it was good for my mind. It's getting a little, like, I don't know, depressed, what you want to call it, but just had to go, like, get out in the world and be amongst some folks and all that. So, but now I'm back here, and for the rest of the year, I'll be back at it, making lots of videos and stuff like that. Because then in January, I go to the UK for 2 months, go to a classic rock show. So I'll have to morph the show a little bit then, or the channel or whatever, and do like I did the last time when I was over there. I'll do some more videos about being there, and be travel logs, and talking about doing stuff at sound check and how to play certain songs or things like that. But that's good for the channel, I figure, right? You guys find that stuff interesting, right? It can't always exist in this room if I want to tour and still do other stuff. So I like to mix it up and do some other things. So yeah, you'll be Steve, you'll be in Salford in January. How depressed do you want to be? No, it's all good, mate. I'm gonna enjoy it when I get over there and have a good time and play some. Yeah, I enjoy it over there, man. Even I thought the same thing. Like, really, UK tour in January, February. When I first went to do it, and it is pretty gray and cold and stuff. But still, I love the UK, and I love being over there and just the whole experience. I mean, the simple everyday, day to day of, like, being in those different towns and cities and stuff. It's special no matter what, So it's fun, I go to the same job 5 days a week for the last 20 years. Should I be depressed? Not if you're not. Don't think about it. If you're a happy guy, you're a happy guy. I'll tell you, it's just that I didn't do that for most of my life, right? There was the variety of the travel and a lot of, like, getting out there in the world and doing different things and stuff like that. And that's what I was used to. And so then to come out of that at my age and, like, not do that all of a sudden seemed like I'm in no way, shape, or form ready to retire. I don't want to be just home. I really enjoyed being home by the same token. So it's that pandemic double thing where it's like, hey, I really like actually being home and kind of going into this little bubble and cooking more at home and doing all those things that I sort of railed against for years, now it's like I'm getting into it, and, like, so that's weird, but probably good, but also miss Japan and miss travel and, all that stuff. What's your favorite Synergy module for clean? I really like that Vi one for clean, to be honest. The clean channel on it is really great if you want a hyper blackface, kind of sparkly clean. It sounds like a Fender. It sounds like a 60s Fender with a bright switch on. You can tweak it, but it's got a beautiful clean sound in it. The BBBE is also really good that way. It's the Buxom Betty and Brown Eye, Friedman's one. So there's a couple that I think, but those would probably be primarily the two I would recommend. I think can't be as cold as Edmonton in the winter. That's true. The UK has nothing on Edmonton in the winter. I mean, there's not even snow there, really. I mean, in some places there is, but it's like not. Edmonton is, January is crazy, and stay away from Norway in that case. Winter depression. I love Norway, though. It's a beautiful country, a great place. So I've been further north in Norway than any other country in the world that I've been in. I was at Tromsø, which is like 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle, I think, and played a killer Chris Cornell show up there. It was really fun. Love it up there. Excuse me. I think I just belched. What else we got here? A couple more super chats. What's up? You used to use the G system. Me too. How would you compare that to the gear of today? Well, we had to, at the beginning of this, we had a whole conversation about it, actually. So I don't want to go too far deep into it, but I would say that the disadvantages are that just real quick, the effects are very basic in it. So you're not going to get like a Memory Man or something, or even like a Phase 90, or, the effects are like straight up reverbs, delays, and stuff like that. And also, folks would complain about latency with it, as I remember, or the buffer, certain things, So we've come a long way when it comes to converters and stuff since the G system. You're talking about 2007. It was like, people were probably still using ADATs back then and stuff to record. I think the converters are I don't know for sure, but they're not 24-bit, right? They're probably 18 or 20 or something. And not, it's just not at the same level as the gear that's out now with the sort of, we've come down the path a long way. Keep in mind, when the G system was out, I don't think there was an Axe effects yet, So, but a good piece of gear just would be, as with all digital things, would be nice if I wish they made one now that, an updated, amazing, every effect under the sun with maybe 6 loops so that you could put your pedals. The Boss is pretty good. Like the little Boss with the, the 3-button job. What's it called? The GT. Oh God, I'm not going to remember, but you know what I'm talking about. There's like 3 loops in it, and it's got a gajillion effects in it. You can build a board around that, and you probably got more and better effects than the original G system had, really, in that little Boss. So there you go. Yeah. This question isn't appropriate for this show. Have you implemented the Phil X reachover? Sorry, I did that. I saw him do that at a NAMM show once, and I was like, "What the hell was that?" And then he showed me, the whole bend the string thing, and it's cool. In his aggressive Phil X way, he kills it doing that. And Javier says, "Does that Sir Discovery delay, thanks for the super chat, work well in the effects loop?" Yes, it's got plenty of headroom. Analog drive-through looks killer. Yes, all that. He thought of all that. Headroom was a big deal. Enough headroom to run in a loop was a big deal. It works fine in my PT 15, which has a almost line level. It's in between pedal and line, but it's on the hot side of pedal level, I would say, or on the weak side of line. We tried to make it so it would work without a switch, for most pedals. So take that for what it's worth. I love the Discovery. It's great. What gear are you bringing to the Classic Rock Show UK? I think I'll go really similar to what I did the last time, which was just PT15, 1 cabinet, my main pedal board, and then some guitars. It worked great. It's a band with keys and another guitar. I thought about maybe doing a stereo thing, but I don't think so. It works better, with 2 guitars to just have your mono. The videos turned out great. The tones I couldn't be happier with the way, the guitar sound in the video and stuff. So why change? I think, I'm probably guilty over the years of changing things too much when they were working. So, I don't want to do that. So, Jeff says, saw Roger Taylor this week. Christian Mendoza on guitar, pair of Victory amps. Fantastic. I just saw this week that Roger Taylor's doing a solo thing. I had no idea, so it's cool. I wonder what that's like. And I saw Brian May came out and sat in as well, which is really cool. Yeah, pretty neat. Did I miss? Oh, there was this super chat, JC40. So that's a Roland amp, I guess, Roland JC40, small JC style. That's cool. I always like those. How do you rate your striped EVH guitar? Did you keep the stock pickups? I didn't change a thing, man. The only thing I did in the red and white and black one was put on the trim setter so that it would, I was having issues with the trim and the angle. Just so I just put a trim thing in the back and left it at that. It's fun, man. They're fun as hell. I'll put it to you this way. The best thing about it is that it makes me happy every time I look at it, when I see it sitting on a stand or something, because there it is, it's like the stripes or whatever, just that you get an instant emotional reaction to it. It's really fun. So, and as far as quality, I mean, I do find them, it's a really good, I'm a Sir endorser, obviously, and that's my main jam, but for picking up and playing Van Halen licks, it's just a blast. They did a nice job on them. They're well done. And so people will go in the mod and they'll talk about changing the Floyds and blocks and different pickups and stuff. Just play the songs, play whatever, it works. That's this coming from the guy that did a whole video on pickups and for that sound. But that's the two worlds I live in, where honestly, like sometimes it's well, I said it earlier, like, nobody cares, just play. It's mostly about your fingers and your hands and the way you play the song. So that's the most important thing. As far as the EVH Brown sound, what modern gear would you go with nowadays? Your hands, playing just your good old analog hands, playing the licks right. No, Sim or real head, and which ones? Well, I just did it with the Quad Cortex. It was out of necessity for not wanting to fly with too much stuff and everything, but I used an SL68 capture in the Quad Cortex. And having said it, I'm a man of a lot of contradictions, because I also had 3 412s there. So I guess it wouldn't have been that big a deal to ship a head out at that point. And I did think of that, but it's like I wanted to. I'm not sad that I had the 3 412s, because that was just awesome. I tell you what, there's nothing like 3 412s. If you're the only guitar player, what I just said about the classic rock show, keyboards, 2 guitar players, I'm fine with a 212 and 1 head and mono and all that. If you're the only guitar player, 3 412s. And Eddie Van Halen would have told you that, as well as Steve Stevens. It's a blast. And it just doesn't even have to be crushingly loud. It just is so big sounding, and you can walk anywhere in front of it, and it's all huge, and it's the best. So anyway, good stuff. Let's see. Rushki, what's up? I'm curious what kind of cash sign that is in the where are you from? Anyways, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. It's just I've never seen that little symbol before, so I don't know what part of the world you're from. Do you have any top 3 favorite modelers within 500 to 2000? Well, kind of my favorite these days is the Quad, to be honest. I don't go down that road much, but it's been working great. I used it at this the musical I just did in Wisconsin. I also used it that was my little board, the Quad with a couple pedals on it. And that thing is really, really great, I think. Now, is it going to satisfy everybody? Probably not, because it doesn't have a bunch of the effects that the Helix has and the Axe effects. They've got a bigger variety of effects and stuff. But the ease of use with it, to me, and the tones, I mean, the effects that are in it, to me, sound great. The long delays, the reverbs, the pitch, it's pretty stellar sounding. Some of if Mr. Beckley's there in the chat, maybe he can leave a comment, because I think he was like, the guitar sounds unbelievable in the PA, and it really, some of the more, I did some stuff that was very synthy sounding because it was kind of like, it's almost like, electronic music, a lot of the stuff that was in the musical. Some of it's very organic, but some of it was very kind of, it's almost like atmosphere keyboard sounds or something. And I found a few presets in the Quad Cortex that were just like, and within like 5 minutes, I'd be like, okay, I think I need a thing to, and they'd be like, oh, that sounds it sounds like, I created this masterpiece of a guitar sound or something, but it was just a preset. But so some of the presets that are in it are really great, and I'm just finding it very user friendly and super quick to do what I want to do, easy to use. So I really like it. But I like I still like the Helix a lot and stuff too, the ease of use of that. And I had good success with the FM3 too. Is that what it's called? The little Axe effects. No, sorry, it was the AX8. That's the one I used. I never used the FM3 live yet, but its predecessor I used for the Queen Ultimate Celebration gigs going back a couple of years now. And so I took that out, and that worked good too. So yeah, I know. Yeah. Let's see here. Alex, happy Sunday. Looking for a solid analog mini flanger pedal. Probably. Doesn't MXR have a mini flanger? I thought they did. Let's see. MXR. I just saw one that recently did. It's pretty small. MXR micro flanger. Is that it? I would probably look no further than that, because the micro flanger. Look how simple it is. Rate and regen. Let's read the copy off the Sweetwater website. Here's the flanger pedal for you. This all-analog tone monster puts iconic MXR flanger sounds drawn right from the M117 pedal into a smaller and even more pedalboard-friendly box. Sounds cool to me. Recreation of the original MXR micro flanger. Yeah. That would be great. Wouldn't be wrong with that. Or get the Boss. Good old Boss flanger, the purple one. Retrosonic flanger says Kitchen Marshall's pretty good too. Retrosonic doesn't make any bad pedals. All their stuff sounds great. What else we got here? Marshall amp with Marshall cab plus XFX 2XL. What's the best way to go wet, dry, wet? Well, you could do it, but you know, you might just want to try stereo. If you've got a Marshall amp, Marshall cab, XFX2, why don't you just experiment with stereo first, using both sides? If it's a modern Marshall cabinet, you can do stereo with it, feed both sides. You just need a power amp for your other side. So some sort of monoblock tube thing that has a volume control will work, or you could use a solid state, but it might not be as cool sounding. You know, I would probably, if I was you, I would have a second amp. I know it's not exactly what you're asking, but it's kind of the Steve Vai way of doing things. Would be legacy into the Axe-Fx from the effects end, right? So effects end of the first legacy head into the Axe-Fx input, and then the stereo Axe-Fx outputs to the return of that first legacy, and then to a second legacy into the effect return. This is what I do generally when I run stereo these days. I haven't done wet, dry, wet, except for this one gig I just did. But other than that, I haven't done wet, dry, wet for a long time. I've been running stereo, if I go stereo, for about 10 years, the way that I just said, with two PT100s, two cabinets, and you know, you split out of the first head into the Axe-Fx, comes stereo out into the effects returns of two amplifiers. The neat thing about that setup is that you can do it with one cabinet, like just a Marshall cabinet. You've always got a second amp there, so if you run into trouble with your first main head that's really generating the tone in the preamp, you could always, you know, go over to the second amp, you know. So and then if the second amp dies for some reason, let's say it just blows views or whatever happens, it shuts down, at least you've still got your one side working and you can go mono. So I recommend that. If you want to go wet, dry, wet, I'll tell you the way I've been doing it is that works really good. And you could do my power amp. Oh, here it is. This thing is working great for this for me. This is a 3-channel matrix. See the 3 volume knobs? Where are they? Over here. 3 volume knobs. So if you loaded down your amp, let's say with a sur-reactive load or something similar, you could load down your head down to line level, come out of the simplest way to do it would be to then come out of the load box right into your Axe-Fx, and then you could set up 3 paths coming through the Axe-Fx. One would be a dry through, and then the other 2 would be with your stereo effects, right? And now you can come out of 3 outputs on the Axe-Fx and go into the 3 inputs of this power amp to 3 cabinets. We're talking about a big rig here, though. And if you're going to do that, you might want an analog dry through path. So at that point, there's a lot of different ways to do this, and I'm going to get too long-winded, but hopefully I've given you a few things to think about. But that matrix power amp is really cool for wet, dry, wet. I find pretty neat. You know, especially if you're using like a Plexi or something, doing it that way. Who makes it? Says Zachary. Matrix, a company called Matrix. John says, killer show today. Thanks, man. Feels good to be back here doing this again. I'll hang another. I've gone for 2.5 hours, I think, so I should probably go pretty soon. Go get some food and stuff, and then I got some work to do. But you have a phenomenal infomercial voice. Why, thank you. Hello, it's Pete Thorn. Hello, and welcome to Movie Phone. I know, I got to get out of playing music and get into voiceover. I know I've got a world waiting for me in voiceover, where there's way more money and you don't need all this stuff. You literally just have your little booth and a microphone. Hello. Stop that now. Sorry. What else we got here? Looking back through the chat, see if there's any more questions. There's a lull. Maybe it's time for me to go. What guitars are you going to bring over to the Classic Rock Show? One I can't talk about yet. That's really cool. and another one that I probably shouldn't mention that's really cool. And other than that, those are the main ones, so I can't talk about it. No, I'll probably bring maybe my P90 Telly again, because that was really cool for Who stuff. I need to look at the set list actually and see what we're going to do, which I can't tell you. But there's all kinds of shit I can't tell you right now. Can't answer any of these questions. It'll be, signature sir stuff, as well as I need a Les Paul of some sort, so that'll happen. I really want to take my Ibanez, but I don't think it's going to happen because I don't have a road case for it, and my Destroyer, because I thought that'd just be really cool on some stuff. But maybe I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll get a case made, just bite the bullet and do it and send it, because it's so cool looking and fun, and it just seems like a cool guitar to play on the Classic Rock Show gig. So we'll see. Any major changes to the main pedal board? Nope, not right now. I might make a couple changes, like to, maybe my delay. I've been using the DD500 for a while, but it bothers me a little bit. Not because it's not great; it's great, but it's just a little more than I need. Like, and the menu's deep, So I find it a little bit like daunting to program and stuff, to be honest, when I just want to do some simple delay stuff. So I need to think about it, like what I use for delay. Maybe I get back into the, I don't know, maybe I just try something else for a little while, like a Free the Tone or something, or some kind of different delay, on there that's just a little easier to get my head around program. My board, the main problem I have with my board that I would like to change right now, even though I love the H9s, I don't really want to change them. I love the DD500, I don't want to change it. They're not nearly as easy to program as, say, the Mobius, which just has the knobs, right? And it's just easy to get to and stuff. And that ease of programmability, like every time I want to change a sound on an Eventide, even though I love them, I love you, Eventide, but the app thing, I hate apps. I really do. I know it's cool, but it's a blessing and a curse, because I got to Bluetooth my phone up to the thing. I got to connect to the right one, because I've got two of them, and then I need to get in and make the changes and this is a process of, like, when I wish I had a little longer reverb time and a little less mix. Or I know you could put things on the hotkeys, but it's like I'm always finding things that aren't on the hotkeys that I need to change. So that's a pain. And then with the DD500, I just find you know what I mean? Like when the interface just doesn't quite work for you. I just want something that's a little simpler. So we'll see. May just leave it all though. Just, nothing's ever perfect, is it? John says just switch from a DD500 to a Volante, not missing the DD500. Yeah, I may go to just like my timeline, although my timeline it's damaged or something, like something wrong with one of the encoders, and I can get it to work, but it's a bit of a pain in the ass. But I never had a problem with the timeline. It was always great. We'll see. I'm just not sure. Yeah, Nathan says I need to get food myself. Me too. I'm going to do that in a sec here. But thanks, man. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Keeley Delay Workstation. That could be something I could look at. Is it MIDI? Let's take a look. What's the Keeley Delay Workstation? Oh, pretty neat. But is it? I don't see that it's a DSP processor delay with a reverb machine. It looks pretty cool. But what's the deal MIDI-wise with it and storing and stuff? I don't see any MIDI on it. See, that won't work for me, I don't think. It does look cool, though. Yeah, I don't know if that one will work. Probably a Strymon, I like the easy use with the Strymons. Like, I love having the knobs on there and then just being able to store a sound. That's really what it's all about. Like, they kind of hit the nail on the head. Obviously, they've been mainstay on boards with the Mobius and the timeline and stuff, because it's just easy. It's nice how easy it is. And I don't want to, sometimes I hate that feeling of being in a rehearsal and going, okay, I know what to do now. I need this delay, but it's going to take me 10 minutes to now program that sound. And I know that we got to move on. So I'm just going to move on. I'll come back to it later. And then, then it's dinner time or whatever. Everybody leaves the stage and goes, and you're like, okay, now let me deal with this delay sound. I wish I could just do it in 1 minute, get to where I need to go. That's a big concern of mine. Like, I love the 200 series bosses, and maybe I just put a DD200 on there and do what I need to do with that, because those are cool, Let's see. Looking for a tube combo that can give me a nice clean and dirty lead channel that has good sounding flexible tone. Combo. 15 to 30 watts, 1200 to 1500. In that price range, I'd probably look for a runt. You know, honestly, isn't the Friedman runt 20 in that price range? Let's see here. There's used at Guitar Center. I just found one. I found your amp. It's $1,099. Guitar Center, Salt Lake City. Used Friedman runt 20. There's your amp, dude. Got a clean channel, got a dirty channel. You can find it online right now. It's got all the recording out stuff. It's got a loop. There you go. That'd be a great little amp for that. What else? What else? Who else makes something that would be good? Mesa Fillmore says, Jeff, never tried that one. Yeah. Seeing if there's any others here. Which is better for solo, volume or booster? I use the amp gain. And generally speaking, you want to use your, like, if you can, your amp's effects loop to boost. With a clean boost or like some way to get a little more volume, and then you can also hit it with a bit more gain in the front end via a pedal or something, boost. But Beckley, you didn't change the come on, capitalize that M. DD200 on my board, honestly use it more than any other delay. Yeah, I think it's really good, and I think it probably does anything that I need to do. And yeah, what do I think about Diamond Dave retiring? He's given us enough rock and roll service over the years, is what I think. And if that's what he needs, wants, feels like he should do, then I feel 100% okay with that. Mostly, like a lot of people, when they heard his message, I was a little concerned because it sounded like he was, kind of not telling us the whole story, but the whole story could kind of be heard in his tone of voice. And I wasn't sure if that was the case or not, or what's going on with him. But I did feel like the main thing that I came away from it thinking was, I hope he's okay. That's how I felt. Is the go down nylon string easy to transition from playing an electric guitar? I saw Steve Stevens play one. It sounds stellar. They really are nice. Steve hooked me up with that company, and I have one as well. And I love that thing. And it's been my main nylon string if I need a nylon, which is I have for a couple things on the road for a while. And they're beautiful guitars, really well made. It's a great tool that, just is solid and plays good. And it's a classical guitar neck. I mean, it's wide and all that, but I found it very comfortable. Yeah. I actually expected to see the Destroyer on the Mitch Van Halen show. Really, I would have loved to take it out there, but it'd be just a matter of like, how do I get it there? Because I don't have unless I'm shipping my vault, my big guitar vault, it's like I need road cases or I wouldn't send. So I don't have a road case for an Explorer. So I should probably get one, I guess, because I have a couple of them. But thoughts on way huge pedals? Any favorites? The Swollen Pickle. The Green Rhino, original. I have an original Green Rhino from the 90s. It's a great tube screamer. Yep. There's a super chat there. Rushki. Would you make a video on your go-to warm-up exercises? I sort of did that, actually. The P is for Philippine pesos. Oh, Philippines. I haven't been there for a long time, but I had fun there. God, it was a long time ago. 18 years ago, I was in Manila. Wow. How's that possible? Doesn't feel that long. Oh, so old. Sorry, what was the question? My go-to warm-up exercises. I got all emotional for a minute. I would say search out my video on picking. I did a 5-minute lesson on picking exercises. And a lot of those, it's just the standard chromatic kind of thing that I do to warm up. I'll tell you another great video for warm-up exercises. Some of the stuff in the John Petrucci video, the original kind of intense rock, or no, that was the Paul Gilbert. What did John Petrucci call his original video with the Ibanez guitar when he's playing? There's some great warm-ups in there. Great. And overall, he talks about stretching and not stressing your hands out too much. So that's really good. So check out that first John Petrucci instructional video and what because I still play a few of those things, but also the Steve Morse instructional video, which I'm sure you can find on YouTube. Like too many notes and the arpeggio section of Too Many Notes, where he's alternate picking through arpeggios, is unbelievable. And sometimes I will do that very slowly to warm up. There's another Steve Morse thing I learned out of one of his Guitar Player magazine articles that uses a lot of string skipping and is really a bitch to play. And I'll do that sometimes, and I'll play it very slowly and just try and play it through perfectly, because I find part of what I need to do to warm up is pick across strings to get my hands synced on the guitar and where the strings are under my fingers and stuff, and get your hands tuned into that. And I like the Steve Morse stuff because it's very musical. You're playing these things that sound like warm-ups, but they also sound like music. So I liked how he seems to never play something, it's never those quasi-chromatic patterns that are just like you would never play in a musical context. Steve's always playing music. Like it's always a musical sounding thing, even if it's a warm-up. So I like that about it. So Steve Morse instructional video from late 80s and the first John Petrucci, as well as the first Paul Gilbert video was what really sent my picking through the roof. It was really, really helpful. Let's see. Somebody was asking about a Music Man Van Halen guitar. If I've ever tried to get one of those. I haven't. I would love to have one though someday because I like those. They're cool. Really, really cool. What else? I feel as though Sammy isn't too far behind regarding retirement. I don't know. I feel like that guy likes to work and party. He seems to be going strong, if you ask me. Like I don't think working is. I mean, I know it's probably hard work, but it's like come on, like with the beach bar rum and the, it's just he's just. It seems like he shows up in his shorts and it fires up the grill and everybody gets a cocktail, and then jumping out on stage is like part of that, all of that, And I don't know. He seems like he's not slowing down when it comes to any of that, as far as I've seen. So he seems like a very positive guy. I don't know. It's nice to see, right? Well, I suppose I should split. I'm having so much fun, you guys, but this has been great today. What's your favorite tuner? Still the good old Polytune from TC. I use a Polytune Mini on my main board. It's one of the little black ones, and I have no desire to ever change from that. The Polytunes are great. Really, really good. Internet doesn't seem to remember how huge Steve Morse was in the guitar community. Yeah, I mean, he's a legend, Amazing. What pedals are you reviewing this week? I've got the Jam Pedals sent me some stuff to do a little while ago, and I need to get on that because I feel like it's one of those ones that I just haven't gotten to. But I've got Jam Pedals and then a bunch of other stuff. The Boss IR200. This guy I got it here in a box, and I gotta get that out and explore. So that'll happen. Honestly, I haven't been able to, I just got back the other day from Wisconsin, and I haven't looked in my hallway here to see what's next. So, but things are coming, and there's a couple guitar reviews I have to do for acoustics and stuff. So that's coming too. Yeah. So that'll all happen. Is Magic Man selling his, what's Magic Man selling? He wants to sell something, but I'm not sure what. Says you guys are talking prices in the chat. Anyways, all right. I'm feeling my brain slowing down now, so I think it's time to go. Thanks, Ben, for being so helpful this week with the super chats. I hope I didn't miss any other super chats and stuff like that. I tried to get on it, but I'll see you next week. I'll be here same time, same place. Line up some guests hopefully before the end of the year, at least a couple, something like that, and we'll have fun and talk guitar some more. Everybody, I love you all. Thanks for being here. Have a terrific week.